Everyone, and welcome. I am Councilmember Byron Amos, Chair of the Atlanta Transportation Committee. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. Introducing to my almost far left is Councilmember Wan, Councilmember Dozier, and our Vice Chair, Councilmember Overstreet. And then on my far left, we have the President of City Council, President Shipman, joining us as well. So we're going to get right into it. I'm making a motion to adopt the agenda. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Then it's been adopted. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Minutes have been approved. Takes us to our public comment. Remind you, you have 3 minutes. The timing will be on the screen. First up, we have Mr. Ted Ward.
Committee. My name is Ted Ward. I'm here today to advocate for this body and the City Council as a whole to continue their commitment to the Streetcar East extension as part of the MARTA program and utilize its effective oversight function to ensure that the city's executive branch acts in accordance with this democratically supported plan. As a lifelong Atlantan, I can remember the choice I faced in 2010 as I considered where I would live when moving back to the city after college. Through the grassroots advocacy of the Atlanta Beltline Partnership, I learned about an incredible transit project that established a vision and an audacity for the future of the city, unlike anything I'd ever dreamed of. To be clear, the walking trail was not what spoke to me, but the idea of providing connector rail to complement the commuter rail system of MARTA was what spoke to Atlanta living up to its billing as a world-class city. Moving to the Morningside neighborhood in 2011, I immediately threw myself into volunteering for the Atlanta Beltline Partnership, tabling at neighborhood festivals and community meetings when many people wanted to know, what is the Atlanta Beltline? Transit was always a leading force of this narrative. As I progressed to become a part of the ABP's Speaker Bureau and later bus and bike tour guide program, the question shifted to when is the Atlanta Beltline coming? As a overwhelmingly voted for the answer of soon. As seen in the results of the Atlanta precincts in the 2012 transit referendum, the 2016 MARTA vote, along with the T-SPLOST of 2017 and 2022. While residents here advocated for but also actively fund capital transit projects in the city, there has been little tangible results in the way of new transit lines. As someone who proudly calls the Old Fourth Ward home and lives along the Streetcar East Extension route on Edgewood Avenue, I was dismayed to learn in the spring of 2023 that resequencing of the MARTA programs would delay construction of the streetcar extension until 2025. In the meantime, we have seen a small group of wealthy and well-connected businesses launch their public relations campaign to derail and kill this project in the 11th hour. Additionally, the sitting mayor has begun to unilaterally elevate new transit projects that were not a part of Tier 1 or Tier 2 sequencing, while at the same time hedging momentum for the streetcar extension in his public statements. As someone who has participated in numerous referendums to support transit expansion in the city, it is illegitimate for one elected official to usurp the will of voters and to step outside of the governance process established for the MARTA program under the IGA. In closing, I would ask this committee to utilize its oversight power to check the executive overreach of elevating certain projects and de-emphasizing other projects based on his own prerogative. I would also advocate for the City Council to have a larger role and voice in any revised IGA and to ensure that the MARTA program better represents the will of the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Next, we have Mr. Nathan Clubb.
Thank you, Chair Amos. Good morning. I'm Nathan Clubb. I'm a resident of Ormwood Park in Southeast Atlanta, long active in my neighborhood association and MPUW. I come here today as a board member of Beltline Rail Now. And we've been out in the community this summer. We've been at festivals. We've been at coffee chats on the Beltline. We've been talking to folks, to voters about Beltline Rail, about how they'd use it, whether they want it or not. And we keep hearing the same things. When is it coming? Why isn't it here yet? And how they'd use it in their daily lives. I know I have 2 young daughters, a 3-year-old and 2-year-old, and I could use Beltline Rail to get to their pediatrician. They could use it someday to go to the elementary school, to go to their high school, to go over to Washington Park to get swimming lessons. This is something we can use in people's daily lives all around the city. And what we see this week is Charlotte, one of our competitors as the capital of the South that we are far ahead of right now, spending close to $100 million just to acquire right-of-way so they can expand their own rail transit. Here we are in Atlanta sitting with tens of miles of right-of-way that we can control that we seem too scared to build on. And so if cost is a concern, I ask all of us to refer to our Congresswoman, Nikema Williams' comments on NPR this month, when she said, as a Beltline Rail Now supporter, that if cost was a concern, to come to her. Between our senators, Warnock and Ossoff, they can come help find the federal dollars necessary to complete the remainder section of the Beltline Rail. And we all know that there's already funding in place to move forward with Streetcar East extension as soon as possible. And so we ask you today to use your seat at the table, to use your voice, to use your oversight responsibilities to advocate for completing the Streetcar East as soon as possible, to advocate for uplifting the South Side and building rail on there as soon as possible. Because in 25 years, 30 years, what we do not want to see is us behind some city like Charlotte. We want to be able to provide the transit opportunities that our residents, that our children and grandchildren deserve. So in closing, I thank you for your time, and please just keep us on the forefront. Use your voices. We can build this. There are funds available. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Michael Jones, and I see you have 2 people that have yield time, so you have 9 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Amos. I came to you last 2 weeks ago on the 14th to tell you about the stripe hog that were inoperable down at DOA maintenance. It's just millions of dollars worth of equipment just down there wasting. And something that stuck out to me was when Jan Lennon told Councilwoman Overstreet that she'd have to research it and get back with you. The problem with that is, a few months prior to this, I'd already sat in her office. I'd already explained all this to her. Prior to that, Ms. Lennon was a deputy general manager of the airport over security, maintenance, and operations. She knows about this. It's no secret. They're giant pieces of equipment that sit there doing nothing. Now, since I left in the 2 weeks, instead of getting the subject matter expert to fix them or to train the employees like what I've been trained to do outside of the company of Hog Technologies, one of only a handful of people in the world, they decided to waste more money and bring up some mechanics from Hog Technologies and get the machines running and bring up some trainers and take a few of my coworkers here against their will and make them sit in the classroom for a week in hopes that they got this training under their belt. Didn't work. I mean, you can't learn that machine in a week. It's impossible. Machines still don't really work. They can run from here to Mr. Amos. That's it. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to blast, not going to rotate. It's not going to do the job it's meant to do. Now, aside from this, let's talk about something a little more important. Let's talk about our airfield, all right? Our airfield is divided up into 3 sections: north, center, south complexes, okay? And in these complexes, they have lighting vaults. Now, the lighting vaults keep the lights on the runways and taxiways lit so pilots can see the land to taxi from here to there, right? In case of an emergency, we have generators that run these vaults. In case something happened, lightning strike, loss of power from Georgia Power, tornado, anything. These 2 out of 3 of these generators have not worked since 2017. Our service contract ran out in 2019. As recent as Monday, the power went out in one of these vaults in the 1028 vault on the South Complex. Generator wouldn't even crank up. Now, this is under under our director, Daryl Miller, assistant general manager, Chris Jackman, and Jan Lennon, who is the interim general manager. Keep in mind, all these people just got them a raise, got all the raises they can, and for what? What are they doing? They're putting the public in jeopardy, airline employees in jeopardy, their safety, our safety's in jeopardy, and nobody seems to care. You know, I feel bad almost for Gus being the interim general manager for the mess that Jan left him. Nobody's doing anything to correct these problems, and there's a bunch more. But yet, Jan Lennon, under her management, they are pillaging and plundering through the money and the resources out at the Department of Aviation, giving themselves raises. We got to fight for every little crumb we get, we've earned. All right, we come down here. We still ain't seen the 412. Don't even know where it's at. Ain't heard nothing more about it. Haven't heard anything about whether or not we're going to give you retro pay for it. We tried to talk to April Broaders, who was the director of human resources. She got her a nice big promotion to deputy general manager. And for what? This is month 2. I'm on administrative leave for my own safety. Month 2. I don't know who's picking up the bill for it, but I appreciate it. They could have used my talents day 1 in 2023 when I walked back in there, could have fixed everything in 3 months or less. They did not want me to do it. Why? I didn't know any of these people down there, minus Jan Lennon, because she's the one that unjustly terminated me in 2018, costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yet they're still down there spending money negligently, departmental money. They could have had me do it all day. Nah. Like I said, I didn't know Christopher Jackman. I don't know Daryl Miller or director Jason Dennis. But they sure know me. I ain't never met them a day in my life, but they sure didn't want my help. They sure didn't want us to, they don't want these men and women to help and to save money down there. This, ladies and gentlemen, just in case I'm not telling the truth, is a list of things that need to be done in these dilapidated lighting vaults and generators made up by the electricians down there. This right here is Christopher Jackman's signature and date of 6/18/24. So let's just say in the 2+ years he's been there, he just found out about these vaults because he just took a tour of them. They need basic stuff: security concerns, equipment, batteries, fuel. It goes on and on. They're not giving us the things we need to keep this airport safe, to keep the general public safe, to keep airlines employees safe, but they're getting raises, so they're happy. They are happy. All these men and women you see behind me come down here every time we come down here to show support. They risk their jobs, they risk their lives on a daily basis, and no one cares. No one's doing anything about it. And we keep bringing you example after example every time. What more do we got to do? Does the mayor need to come down and send a team down there? What about this? What was the people that got rid of Tarlisha? The inspector general. They need to come down and do an investigation. Somebody needs to come down there and do something, because this is getting out of hand. This is ridiculous. These generators should have been working a long time ago. This $1 million worth of machinery should have been working a long time ago. But they're not. They're just wasting money and giving themselves raises for it. April Broaders, we come down here, we've been complaining about April for years. Didn't do any good. I still ain't been made whole from 2018 to 2023. Still costing taxpayer money. She got a big old promotion though. Congratulations. Don't know if it's well earned, but congratulations. I guess what we're trying to say is we want to make this place a better place. We have integrity. We want the respect we deserve, we've earned, and we want the dignity we've earned. Yeah, we're not getting it. We're telling this committee, hopefully the mayor's watching, we're telling y'all the problems down there, and there's much more that nobody seems to be doing anything about. This is an ongoing issue. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you giving us the time. Listen to us. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jones, before you leave, what is the name of that report you state you have?
What this is here, you can have a copy. It's what our airfield electricians came up with to present to Christopher Jackman, the assistant general manager of maintenance, and listing the concerns and problems they have in their vaults and what they need to carry on with their daily work detail and jobs. And you can have, and it's written by them, and it's signed by Mr. Jackman, who finally came down there after 2 years and did a tour of it.
You can give it to Mr. Overton, please.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker would be Mr. DeJuan Robinson. I see you have 2 people yielding time to you, so you have 9 minutes as well, sir.
Good morning. Thank you once again, Council, for allowing us to come out here to speak and share time. What you have in front of you is a letter that Ms. Valerie Esprit just received last week after we came down here and spoke about the amputee young lady, the 60-year-old, that was forced to sit at her desk to not use the restroom, to urinate on herself. What you see there is she reported bullying to Mr. Michael Smith and April Borders. It didn't go nowhere. Now, it's my understanding that Michael Smith and April Borders worked at Delta together, and this is why she's been protected all these years, because of Michael Smith. When I first started coming down here speaking about Ja Farrell and Bill Dora, I never knew the biggest devil and the quietest devil was Michael Smith. He's the one been upholding evil out there at that airport, and he's here today. And these people been telling y'all how nasty he is to them, but he come in here and parade himself as a saint. He's not that. And we need to get to the bottom of that, because we keep having people coming down here. Do y'all think people want to risk their job to keep coming for nothing? No. We got to start protecting these people. Maynard Jackson's name is on there for a reason. He stood against the test of time when it wasn't popular to say, hey, to all the white business community, we got to give 25% and 30% of minority participation. Chain themselves to the airport. Y'all thought he did that for nothing? No. We cannot allow that. April Borders have been recently went from HR to assistant general manager. That's not the way you go. $40,000 raise. Michael Smith, Jan Lennon gave her that raise. Come on, y'all. Why are we going to keep sitting there doing that? I spoke about Tracy Harrison 2 years ago. It took them 2 years to fire her. Why do you think that? And guess what? They still don't have the federal airport clearance from the staff she was under. Still not cleared. But they've been protected by these same people that brought them in. We cannot allow that. You cannot be fair and transparent if you're a retiree from Delta and you're the second in command at the airport. That means Delta has no wrongdoing. They're never going to be held accountable if it's up to Michael Smith. We cannot allow that. Now, y'all can't stop the hiring, but we got to fix that. There has to be some type of legislation that we need to say, hey, listen, is that, and there's no disrespect to you, Councilman Overstreet, because I know you're a retiree as well, but you're a council member. We're talking about airport top-line officials that is directly impacted, that if Delta is wrong, can you stand down? Because not only are you a retiree from Delta, but you're an attorney. And you're supposed to be a man first. Out here allowing women to treat other women degrading like this. Ms. Valerie also was stuck on the elevator, Council, 17 minutes. Leslie Putnam and April Borders them berated her for that. You got to be stupid to be stuck on the elevator. I wish she would have came out today, but you know what they told her? Along with this letter, if you come to City Hall and you speak to Mr. Robinson, you will not receive your pay. But we're going to get her down here. They scared her up today. We're going to get her down here. But we got to stop letting Michael Smith them come down here and play these games and sit here and we don't ask them no questions. They done told y'all many times. I was outside when they told him that, hey, man, you never speak to us, man. You just walk past us. He don't care. Man, we got to stop allowing this, man. We have the power to stop it without going to, into executive session. We have the power to stop it. Ask them these questions on television. Let them lie to you the same way they lied to you guys when y'all told them to give them 2 weeks, Mr. Warren. They still lied. Never call these people, never talk to these people. Bill Dora told them, I'm no longer going to be the general manager. I don't have to meet with y'all. We got to stop that, man. Leslie Putnam, it's the same play they did with the two young ladies at the airport. When they want to get rid of you, they get employees to write letters, give it to Kelly Yamaguchi. She give it to my guy back here that's over the airport. And we got to stop this. It's the same story. They put the false narrative out there. But we got to stop that. We have a 60-year-old lady that was forced to ask Leslie Putnam, can she use the bathroom? In 2024, we asking another black woman, can we use the bathroom? And she telling her no. And we're not doing no investigation on that, and the proof is in the pudding. But imagine when you go to HR and you file a bullying complaint and it goes nowhere because they're friends. They're friends, it goes nowhere. Now, we just got rid of the snake. It should be easy to get rid of the dog. Charlisha Smith was the head of the snake. The rest of them are the puppy dogs. It should be easy to get rid of them. So how can we find that our head commissioner was corrupt and wrongdoing, but the airport HR goes unscathed? Come on, man. Above all, our common sense should be the highest thing that we have. So I'm not understanding how we continue to allow the airport to get away with this. And what Mr. Jones said and what he didn't get into, Mr. Warren and Mr. Shipman, I'm sure you remember this. When the airport had a blackout, that's where it came from. The generator should have been repaired. But Mr. Jackman and Mr. Smith, them out there too busy giving their friend raises. Nobody's checking the generators, Mr. Lewis. This is how we had a blackout, and they still have not been replaced. So imagine that we may be on the brink again of another blackout, because they're not replacing the things that they tell y'all that the budget and the money is there for them to replace. But they're not replacing these generators. So when they ask you guys, and they're very grateful, and I'm grateful that y'all gave them, everybody gave them the 450, but the 412 that was given from the federal government specifically, that money has disappeared. But all of a sudden, you got about 10 assistant general managers. You got everybody giving themselves $40,000 raises. But where that money come from, though? Nobody want to answer that. We want to pacify and give them the 450. But what about the theft of the 412 that is missing? Can we make them show that? They still have not given y'all the minority participation pay that they have received. What about the contracts out there? How involved are we in making sure that minorities are getting paid their 25 and 30%? Why are we not asking these questions? Can't you not see that we are better together? When white and black join each other, my two brothers over here from Morningside, they coming up here voicing their concern. But I guarantee you it get fixed because they up here. But we are better together, man. White and blacks have always been better together from the start of civil rights. Before that, we are better together. But some of y'all still like to separate us. But we cannot be separated. We are better together. This city is better together, man. If you're born and raised here, you know how special this place is. And if you've been here long enough, you know how special this place is, man. Maynard had to learn it the hard way when he was messing around with Public Works. They boycotted against him, and he had to get it right. And I love Maynard to death. And he's not born and raised here, but he contributed so much to this city. He created the Atlanta way. Even though some of the white businessmen didn't like what he did, they still got in line and worked together. And now we are better together. But we cannot have this, man. Come on, man. You got black men and women coming down here and white workers coming down here uniting together. Y'all don't see how special that is, how unique that is, how problematic that is? We cannot allow Michael Smith, Jan Lennon, April Borders, none of these actors to keep coming down here playing with you guys, lying, giving these false printed reports. And all we say, oh man, it look good, the presentation look good. Yeah, but they lying. Come on, man. Y'all think people want to come down here on their work day, putting their jobs in jeopardy to keep begging y'all to help them? Then we do appreciate the help. You know what I'm saying, that you guys have been giving them, Councilman Chair Amos. So I'm not saying that. But we got to ask the tough questions, man. You know what I'm saying, like all our grandmama used to say, we got to get to the nitty gritty. We can't be afraid to ask these people these questions, man. They work for the people. But what they doing out there, man, is devastating what they doing out there, man. And we got to stop that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Next on the list would be Mr. Ken Robley, and as he come up, just want to acknowledge we're being joined by Councilmember Hillis and Councilmember Lewis as well.
Morning, council members. I'm Ken Roebling, and I'm here to talk about 24R 3912. It was on the agenda at last council meetings. It's not on the agenda today, so you either passed it or you filed it. It was $89 million for a closed-circuit television system at the airport. I mentioned at that meeting that it seemed a little excessive. $89 million is a lot of money. I'm thinking, hypothetically, if that was only worth $9 million, that means there's $80 million floating around. Law enforcement might take a notice of that and start asking questions. If they ask questions, some people who may be in on the deal may be making up phony invoices to cover that $80 million that is possibly going to the corruptors. They might decide they don't want to get in trouble with the law. They might even turn in state's evidence and say, hey, I know what's going on. I'll help you out if you give me immunity. That's a possibility. So some people might want to consider that when they turn in these excessive amounts at the airport. And these people are all saying that the airport's not using the money to do the equipment and what it needs to run the airport. So this may be a very serious problem. Now, if you file that item, the corruptors are going to be pretty mad because they think that money is theirs. It's really not, but they think it's theirs. So they might do something radical. They might try and hurt somebody. They might even try and poison somebody. So you have to be careful which way you vote on these things, because Atlanta's got a problem. And you're here to make sure that it doesn't get too far out of hand. Well, that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the speaking list will be Rebecca Cerna.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Cerna. I'm the Executive Director at Propel ATL. And what I have to say today might sound slightly familiar. If you were here in October of 2022, I'll be reading from part of my comments. Why? Because the same issue that Atlanta Department of Transportation resolved in 2023 when they redesigned streets being repaved to make them safer has reared its head again. One of the core strategies in Atlanta's strategic transportation plan is to take every opportunity to make streets safer. The plan goes on to recommend incorporating crash prevention tools into resurfacing so we can make our roads safer by design and prioritize safety and restriping. There are many reasons why we should take every opportunity to make streets safer. The Atlantans who have died or had their lives altered forever just trying to cross the street represent the best of those reasons. You approved Vision Zero and the goal of eliminating traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2040, and we thank you for that. You're rightly concerned at the same time about the slow pace of repaving and project implementation, and we understand that. But being behind schedule is not a good enough reason to do a rush job. We've been asking for the list of streets to be repaved and the safety improvements they will receive since January. We finally got the LMIG list when it came to council, but we still have not gotten a response on safety improvements. If you do advance this legislation today, you could fix this and still support Vision Zero goals. Require that the repavings infuse safety improvements for people as they walk, use wheelchairs, use scooters, access transit, and ride bikes. I have one thing to add. GDOT, that's right, the Georgia Department of Transportation, is consistently reviewing its plans for resurfacing now to identify potential safety improvements and infrastructure projects that overlap. Let's do at least that well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. My last speaker is this Dejan Tabalt.
All right, good morning, Council. My name is Dejan Tebow. I'm a downtown resident and the Vice President of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and advocating for safer streets within our repaving projects that are coming. As part of Downtown Neighborhood Association, our goal is to have accessible, safe, and inviting streets and community spaces. And when we have these projects coming for repaving, we need to make sure that people feel safe walking around, biking, and taking scooters. With this project, we also want to make sure that these safer streets are connected to other safe streets so that people feel good about going from one side of town to the other. So that includes bike lanes that are connected, protected, so that any person of any skill level can get around town without feeling unsafe, deciding to use the sidewalk, or deciding at all to just go take a car. Especially leading up to the World Cup, we want to make sure that this is a World Cup games that we have that people feel good going around without having to drive around and clog up our streets. So wanting to make sure that Vision Zero principles, safe street principles are incorporated with any repaving project throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and apologize about the mispronunciation of your name. That ends public comment. Before we move to presentation, Mr. Michael Smith. No need to come up to the mic, but I am asking before the close of business today, which is 5 o'clock, can you email this committee the status of all electrical vaults on the airfield, please? Okay, he acknowledged by shaking his head. Also, legal. I got an email from someone from the airport again about using personal time to come and speak to committees. By close of business today, which is 5 o'clock, can someone from legal send this committee the ordinance that speaks to city workers speaking to council or committee, if it exists and if it doesn't, and then also let us know if there's some policy or regulation that exists in the airport that somehow speak against or supersede this city ordinance.
We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next is our presentation, Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority quarterly update.
All right, well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Chair Emis, council members, thanks for having me. It's Collie Greenwood, General Manager and CEO of MARTA, and with me a number of MARTA representatives here on the front row to assist and observe. I also wanted to recognize our board members, Jennifer I, Jacob Zagabe, and Sagira Jones, who are monitoring the proceedings remotely. I'll just start with this cover picture. It's just a nice lead-in to some of the progress that's been going on this quarter through MARTA and Atlanta and some of our partnerships. In this case, it's a partnership with Midtown Alliance, Norfolk Southern, and the Project for Public Spaces. And you'll see here it's a performance venue. It's a container stage and a mural there at North Avenue. So far, we've had Moksha Dance, CC Sunchild, the Sabre Brass Band, all making presentations at this location and entertainment. And on September 12th, there will be a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration featuring live music, DJ performances, and traditional Mexican folk dancers. So just on our covering page, a nod to the successful installation and productions like this, rendering North Avenue an even more cultural gathering spot. Onto our agenda, you'll see here that we'll be talking about current service, MARTA, the More MARTA Atlanta program, projects specifically, station rehabilitations, community engagement, and other news. We'll start with current service, and we always start with this slide just to give you a sense of what's happening with ridership. Still good news, long-term, year-over-year improvements in our ridership. And, we look forward to continued improvement in that regard. We do know that, when you look week to week, there are times when some of those lines are shifting, but the good news here is you can tell that our mobility service and our streetcar service are pretty much back at pre-pandemic levels, which bodes well for bus and rail, which are continuing to make modicums of improvement as time goes on. I wanted to talk too about the 5-year bus amenity program and kind of throw our arms up in celebration that we have completed that. 5 years ago, MARTA said that we would install 1,000 amenities in the 1,000 amenity program, which included 250 amenities right here in the city of Atlanta. Through constant feedback and collaboration with the public, the community stakeholders, elected officials as yourselves, that's helped us determine the most impactful stops that required shelters and semi-seat upgrades. Of course, no good deed goes unpunished, so we're now contemplating phase 2 of this program, and we will get back to you in terms of the strategy there. But we're mindful, of course, that there's a bus network redesign going on, which will consolidate routes in high ridership areas. And we're also mindful and considering other forms of amenities that might be needed, such as canopies, micro shelters, and LED lighting. So all of that will unfold in phase 2, but we wanted to take a moment and just recognize that it was a promise kept that MARTA made 5 years ago and came in on time and on budget. The bus network redesign, I just mentioned that, so just to let you know, that continues to progress. We've got some good news coming. We're going to brief our board first in terms of being able to meet the objective of increasing the frequencies and yet making sure that our disenfranchised communities are not unduly negatively affected. So we've taken great pains to make sure of that. We expect to start a second round of external and public engagement in September. We'll also see a briefing of elected officials in October and November and start with our public meetings in December. If all goes well, and I've said it before, we're not guided by a schedule here. We're guided by the quality of the process and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the people. But if all of that goes well, we anticipate that by the end of next year, we will be running the new network on the street. In terms of the More MARTA Atlanta program, I wanted to start with the More MARTA Atlanta audit. So, much has been said of the audit and the recommendations that have come, but let me just say this. There were about 10 recommendations put through in the audit, and MARTA does not disagree with the majority of them. In fact, a lot of them we agree with, and some of them we've been saying for quite some time. And so generally speaking, we are on board and supportive of the comments that were made. It speaks to improvements required in communication on the city side as well as on MARTA's side. It speaks to the fact that there's an IGA in place that was, adopted many years ago before we really knew what the challenges were going to be with these projects, and it suggests that the IGA be revisited. It talks about relationships and collaboration, and it even takes the point of saying that the relationship between MARTA and the city is the best it's been in years. But there is one recommendation, recommendation number 7, that the recommendation itself we don't take issue with. The recommendation itself says that we recommend that MARTA and the city talk about the methodologies that are being used. We're good with that. But the inferences and the example used in that recommendation was flawed. And we want to make sure that we're able to make that statement very, very clearly, that the ratios used in that example that Malden and Jenkins used took into account a level of service that we had quantified during the essential bus service system. That is, during COVID, when we had a reduced level of bus service on the more MARTA routes. They used that quotient, that methodology, and applied it to the time frame prior, from 2017 to 2019, when we all know we had an exorbitant amount of bus service on the routes. So if you use a methodology that applies during COVID to a time frame that applies while we had excessive bus service, of course your numbers are not going to make sense. And of course it would appear that you've overcharged. To make that methodology right, you would essentially have to say, we're not charging the city of Atlanta for any of that bus service between 2017 and 2019 that was added. So back to the drawing board, more conversation, and that's really all Malden and Jenkins was saying. Inferences were drawn from there that, of course, hit the headlines and hit the papers, and we try not to trade in that venue. We continue to work closely with our partners at the City of Atlanta in the mayor's office to make sure that that recommendation is well met. So that's all I'll say on the More MARTA audit. We'll entertain questions if there are any at the end of this. Onto the More MARTA program spending program. This is, our quarterly, our promise to continue giving you this information. The key message here is that it represents the total expenditures for each More MARTA project through the end of the FY24 fiscal year. We've spent $41 million in FY24, you can see, and with a total expenditure to date on capital projects at $100.5 million. Major items are the continued spend on Campbellton Corridor. You'll see the acquisition process reflected there on Cleveland Metropolitan ART. 5 Points is nearing final design completion. And you will see also the right-of-way process on Summerhill is nearing completion with just 2 properties remaining. So again, a snapshot of where the spending is on the various projects. More MARTA project budgets and schedules. You'll recall that this was a request at the last presentation. So this slide basically gives you an overview of the total project budgets and schedules for the Tier 1 projects. These reflect the costs and schedules that have been locked in under the requirements of the IGA, and you'll remember that the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement, requires that the program management team refers each project to the PGC, the Program Governance Committee, at around 30% design milestone for approval of cost and schedule. But what this actually says to me is momentum. When you look at some of the dates on that slide, you can see that they're imminent. We're not talking about 10 years out. It says that MARTA is moving towards progression and projection completion and revenue operations, in some cases as early as next year. So it's good news from a program governance perspective and great news for people waiting for these projects to actually come to life so that they can improve their own lives. In terms of projects, let's take a quick look at the Cleveland Metropolitan Arterial Rapid program. You can see here that the expected construction start is Q1 in 2025. We have a 15-month duration anticipated for construction. We're currently in a collaborative partnership with the ATL-DOT in an innovative delivery to bring several ATL-DOT projects into the bid for Cleveland Metropolitan ART under the assumption that it'll generate more competitive bidding. So that's an important part of this. Without the ATL-DOT projects involved, we didn't get a lot of attention, a lot of uptick in bids for the project. But by combining it, giving it greater scope, more cost, we were able to attract more interest, and so more competition means a better result. The Summerhill Rapid is also progressing very well. The key message here is that construction is in progress. The other message is that engagement continues. We continue to encounter conditions and issues that were not planned for, however, and that's to be expected when you're into a major construction project. We found extremely low and shallow utilities in the southern section of Hank Aaron Drive. That's water supply, gas supply, things that definitely have to be moved and relocated and addressed before we can continue. We've also found the exposure of historic trolley tracks where the disposition of those are pending. That's near Glen Street, also on Hank Aaron. And we also discovered a parking garage beneath a sidewalk that wasn't on any blueprints or any maps. So again, that's off Forsyth Street. So these are things that you discover while you're digging, and we need to address these so that we can get back on schedule with the program. So we're working with all stakeholders to resolve these conditions as soon as possible. In terms of engagement, you may recall on May 11th, we had the Bike the Route event where ATL-DOT, Beltline, and Atlanta Cycling had a festival together and raised awareness there. We also have outreach to seniors along the route with 2 coffee and construction events with residents of senior centers. That was on July 31st and on August 8th. We also are working hard to make sure that internally our operations folks are aware of what's happening, as well as working externally with GSU students commensurate with the beginning of the school year. 5 Point Station transformation. There remain 2 options on the table. I think you're aware that the mayor is considering support of either the existing plan, 9A reduced, or a temporary 10-year fix. And those are the 2 competing interests right now that remain, on his desk as he goes through some more granular information that we've been able to provide for him. So we anticipate hearing from the mayor's office shortly, at which point we'll know which way MARTA will be proceeding. The Campbellton BRT update, that's going well. Application for the rating submission was completed on Friday, August 23rd. So we We were successful there in getting the application for the ratings in ahead of the deadline. And back a bit, on August 13th, we had this community public engagement session. We had at least 80 members from the community come out. A real demonstration of interest from different neighborhoods. It was a 1-hour open house where we had boards displayed and project milestones were discussed. We had area maps and examples of design features, including the Greenbrier Transit Hub and an overview of the Campbellton Corridor TOD Master Plan. The members were able to ask questions and engage with the experts along that project. This next one shows BRT cost comparisons. That was another question that was raised last time, and we just wanted to bring this to you. This slide provides an overview of the total project budgets and schedules for our Tier 1 projects, and it is BRT specific, but it also compares costs to other projects like Cleveland, Albuquerque, and some other national BRT projects. More on that, when we sort of put the MARTA Rapid Summerhill project in a continuum, you can see that the Summerhill program falls right in line there along the lines of where a dedicated guideway would be. And this is a dedicated right-of-way. We have about 85% dedicated right-of-way on the MARTA Summerhill Rapid, so that does put it on the more expensive side of the map, but much less expensive than those left of it. So you'll see that the cost per mile there is about $34.5 million. Station rehabilitation, I wanted to update you here because it's important that we stay ahead of critical structural issues and maintain a state of good repair at all 38 of our stations. So there's repaving, there's reconfiguration of parking lots, and we're making sure that they're ADA accessible. And a couple of examples there, you can see at Inman Park and Reynoldstown. These improvements are important. We've been extremely busy at our stations on the rehab project. The parking lot improvements at Inman and Reynolds, for example, have provided needed upgrades to make the lot fully ADA accessible. It's provided safe pathways from the roadway to the station. It's added more ADA parking spaces, upgraded lighting, and new crosswalks and landscaping. Over to Lennox Station, where rehabilitation is going on there, you can see that we're rehabilitating the skylights. We're mitigating the deluge of water intrusion that's plagued that station for years. We had earlier fixed the planter and plaza waterproofing repairs, so this combines for a much better experience for customers using this station. We'll begin work on the South Concourse skylight early in 2025. 5 Points is also receiving its renovation or its rehabilitation. You can see by the slides that we've got floor tile mortar demolition, ceiling framing on the platform, and new telephone installations ongoing. We've also recently completed work on the Eisman facade. That's been rehabilitated. The scaffolding is down, so it's there in its glory for you to see. And we continue, of course, working with the platform pavers and the new lighting and ceiling framing. A massive investment on MARTA's part from our core penny to make sure that this station is in excellent working shape, that it's in a good state of good repair and aesthetically pleasing long in advance of the World Cup, because it's not about the World Cup, it's about the men and women that use this station every day. A quick stop at East Lake Station. Back on that, that's a picture of what was going on July 21st. That was actually MARTA's first ever accelerated bridge project. So this was happening on the north side. It'll reopen in October. You can see all the elements of the north side phase 1 there, and then you can see our commitment to phase 2, which will reopen in March of 2025. Bankhead Station platform expansion, we're design kickoff meeting on April 23rd, and so we're in the final design stage now. The work order was executed on August 5th, so 60% design is now set to commence. We're looking at 12 more months of design before we can actually get into construction. And once construction starts, we anticipate about 2 years before completion. But that will unlock Bankhead Station and everyone that uses it to the entire system using full-length trains and giving them full access to the rest of the system. Over to some community engagement, just some good reminders that MARTA is out there, not just taking you from point A to B, but enriching lives as we go. We've got the Atlanta Streets Alive at Civic Center Station in partnership with Propel ATL that provides Atlantans a fun-filled day of activities that featured an electric bus, live music, and a prize wheel with the chance to win MARTA swag. We have the Atlanta Public Schools partnership with a back-to-school bash at the Georgia World Congress Center. We engaged over 1,500 families and provided students with essential supplies, backpacks, and of course, breeze cards. And we also hosted a group of African college students aspiring to be engineers in the Mandela Washington Fellowship at Peachtree Center Station. You'll also see reference there to the weekly MARTA markets for fresh food and local produce, especially for communities that are at risk of being considered in food deserts. Since 2015, MARTA has expanded from a single train station in its first season to 7 stations in 2024, serving now over 20,000 shoppers and distributing over 40,000 of produce on an average each year. In other news, we want to invite you to the John Lewis Bus Wrap Reveal. It's part of our year-long celebration of Black history. MARTA is unveiling a wrap bus honoring the life and legacy of our Congressman John Lewis. And we're also hosting a voter registration drive at College Park MARTA Station on Thursday, September 12th. So, of course, we'd love to see you there. And before I conclude, I wanted to take a moment to recognize that MARTA was recently awarded the Outstanding Public Transit Agency Award from the American Public Transit Association, or APTA. So throughout the past year or so, we've been telling you about MARTA's successes with things like safety awards and unprecedented GDOT collaborations, AAA credit ratings that benefit our project partners and the fiscal environment that we work in, police security accomplishments, initiatives, and awards, innovative station management initiatives, customer engagement awards and events, and progress with new expansion, new equipment, and employees. We've been saying all that, but now I'm pleased to tell you that APTA has heard us, and they've assessed the North American public transit industry, and they've bestowed upon MARTA the honor of being recognized for significant leadership, outstanding demonstrations of excellence, and accomplishments and innovations that have greatly advanced public transportation. So APTA based their selection on criteria across multiple categories, including infrastructure development, technology and innovation, equity, sustainability, customer service, and community engagement. This was an independent expert panel of our national transit peers that have reviewed our accomplishments and recognized the progress, the plans, and the passion that we have for our customers. But really, I'm pausing here. I'm pausing here to thank our team of over 5,000 employees who deliver transit services across Metro Atlanta 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, tirelessly, regardless of conditions. And we're grateful to the American Public Transit Association, and this distinction has already energized the team as we plan the next level of improvements here at MARTA. And with that, Councilman Amos, I return the floor to you.
Thanks, sir. See people lining up to speak. Oh, just one. Councilmember Dozier.
One for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, CEO Greenwell. Good to see you as always. Just a couple quick questions. I know my colleagues have some more technical questions for you, but a couple things that stood out to me in the presentation. One, as an avid bus rider, I've been very interested in the bus network redesign. I've been very appreciative of the amenity program that y'all been implementing over the last couple of years. I am curious if there's alignment between the amenity program and the redesign work. So if we're installing new bus shelters, bus benches, and things like that, and then the routes suddenly change, what happens to the existing amenities that y'all have spent a lot of dollars investing in? Will those be realigned, or will y'all have to relook at what ridership looks like to confirm whether?
Perfect point, Councilman Dozier. Generally speaking, let me start with the fact that the amenities program is largely assigned to stops that were highly used, right? So we have a threshold of a minimum number of people that should be waiting at a stop to get on a bus. So that means it's already in a corridor that's very effective, very popular, and quite necessary. So the chances of an amenity at a corridor being, suddenly on a corridor that's not used are very slim. But in recognition of that, that's what I was saying earlier, when we start talking about phase 2 of our amenities program, we're going to pump the brakes just a little bit to make sure that all the communications we've had with our land planners and our civic leaders have taken into account where these are and that we've been able to kind of project where the bus network redesign routes are going. So we are now at a point where we have a good sense of where the routes are. So already that work is being taken into account so that we don't end up in the exact situation you've described.
Perfect, thank you. And just putting my advocacy hat on a little bit, one thing I would request is, regardless if it's now or if it's part of the redesign work, but thinking about equity with the implementation of the amenity program. I know ridership, we're using hard numbers and data to drive that decision, but I have a lot of parts of my community in my district that the only bus stop infrastructure that's there is just the pole and the dirt. There's no improved pavement. There's no concrete. Yeah. It's on a rainy day, on a hot day. Riding a bus can be unsafe. It can be undignified. And how can we address that challenge, even if the ridership numbers aren't necessarily there? And I wonder too, there's a chicken and egg sort of situation where, if there was a shelter, if there was a place where I can sit, that I'd be more likely to take the bus because I'll be comfortable in doing that, physically comfortable. And so just want to add that note of advocacy as y'all looking at that.
We hear you loud and clear, and we agree that it's not just numbers. Sometimes a location is selected because it's next to a senior's residence or a hospital, and so you have people that are in precarious situations waiting for the bus. I will say that, City of Atlanta has more than 3,500 different bus stops. So we've just hit 250 with the amenities, and the cost of putting up an amenity at every bus stop would be exorbitant. So we do have to prioritize, but that's why those priorities are established in consultation with yourself and your representatives. But you're right, it's not just numbers. And we fully recognize what the concrete pad does. To those that don't take the bus, you could drive by it and not even notice, but it is protection from the elements underfoot. And a shelter when it rains or when the sun's shining, we recognize that.
And then just one more question on that thread. As we see new development happening in the city, are developers talking with you all as far as, we're bringing a 300-unit apartment building here, or we're bringing a commercial amenity here that currently doesn't have those sorts of amenities? Do they just need to, is that part of their checklist in terms of whether the city's permitting office, that conversation is happening to enhance those amenities in recognition of future development opportunities, or is it just happening in a vacuum? Y'all see that there's something going on and y'all need to respond to the.
Yeah, with the bus network redesign, we are working with the land use planners in the cities and the permitting offices. So we have a good, no crystal ball goes into the distant future, but we have a good immediate future idea of where development is happening.
Okay. And then another question or another comment just on the advocacy side of things. I know, we're not basing these decisions around World Cup, but that is the elephant in the room. And I know a lot of attention has been made over the 5 Points MARTA station redesign over the last couple of years. I've been part of the group of council members who have been working with or in concert with y'all to get that right. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we also have Georgia World Congress Center, CNN, whatever it's called. I know the name changes a lot. Vine City MARTA Station, as well as Garnett MARTA Station, that are in Peachtree Center, to be honest, that are will be big destinations for not only people visiting for the World Cup, but to your point, and beyond.
Yes.
And so there's some, at least on the Garnett MARTA station side of things, it's a station I use regularly. It's the closest station to where I live. There's some things that the city, working in concert with city leadership to improve in terms of, there's encampments and things like that we're trying to figure out to make sure people feel safe. But thinking about what the MARTA property specifically, are y'all looking at enhancements or activations that will make sure that part of our South Downtown community is more welcoming to visitors or residents or people who want to even come down to City Hall, just trying to make sure that there's some alignment there with the ongoing work elsewhere?
Absolutely, we are. Like I said, we're targeting all 38 of our stations, and then we're prioritizing, and Garnett is high on our list. In fact, we're trying to get some work done at Garnett in advance of World Cup, and I know you and I agree that it's not about World Cup, it's about the city and the residents for generations. However, you got to do something first, and so you may as well do the ones that give you, more bang for the buck. So yes, we are doing activations, and we're spending millions of dollars at each station of our core penny budget to make sure that, a state of good repair to begin with, and where there are opportunities to make aesthetic improvements, we're doing that too. As for Vine City, I fully expect that question from Councilmember Amos. Every time I come here, he's talking about Vine City. So, we've got that on the schedule as well. So we'll make sure that we take care of those.
And then just one more note on Garnett. I've been talking with ATL DOT as well as with the development community down there in terms of how can we reimagine Broad Street. And so just recognizing that thoroughfare from Garnett to 5 Points MARTA station, there's that ramp that goes towards Trinity that's on the MARTA property. Like, to me, there's such an amazing opportunity for an activation and an ongoing activation beyond just the work that we're doing around World Cup. So I just want to specifically call that out as well.
Thank you.
And then just my last question, something that I've asked before and I'll ask again with regards to ART. I know Councilmember Lewis is next to speak, but I recognize that we're looking at spending about $50 million for the Metropolitan ART project. I see that other BRT projects are in the $90 million range, $80 million range. I know there's a proposed ART project for Peachtree Road somewhere in the project sort of stack. Recognizing that there isn't the same sort of infrastructure investment that we see for BRT, I still have trouble wrapping my head around how an ART project comes up to $50 million. And if we're spending that much, why not look at advancing that to be a proper BRT project, recognizing how many tens of million dollars we're already investing out the gate?
So that's a question that there's a complexity to unpacking that. One of the things is it may depend on, the length of the corridor, so that's going to drive costs. But in terms of getting funding and support, the density of the usage, the population, and the density of ridership that we project on those routes are going to determine whether or not we get federal support for it as a BRT or as an ART. So let me start with saying, if it were entirely up to us, we would build the most impressive corridor everywhere. But we are cost constrained, and so with those cost constraints come those considerations from our federal partners. Is it competitive as a BRT? Do you need the dedicated right-of-way? Do you have the infrastructure to provide for it? And what's the length of the corridor and things like that?
So then how do we get to, recognize there aren't going to be those BRT level enhancements, how do we get to a $50 million price tag for?
Yeah, so I would have to look at the project specifically to explain that. The cost per mile will be the same, but how long is it? What are the the geotechnical considerations that have made this more complex? And when you think about ART, it's got a lot of the features that BRT does. It just doesn't have the civil takeover, if you will, of the corridor. So the dedicated right-of-way is not there, but in many cases, you've still got the customer-facing attributes. You've still got the rear door boarding. You've still got a lot of things, queue jumps, signal intercommunications with the transit signals. So it's more than just a bus route. So there are costs, but we would have to get into that specific one, and if you like, we will, to give you a detailed explanation of how we arrived at that cost projection.
I appreciate that. I don't want to get into my colleagues' Kool-Aid a little bit, but I know a lot of my constituents use the existing bus route on Metropolitan, and to your point, one of the best in class project and product that we can deliver, but I also know it costs money, and just want to make sure that if there's an opportunity to enhance that to make it even better, I want to also advocate that on behalf and support of my colleagues too.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I yield.
Thanks, sir.
Councilmember Dozier is probably the councilmember that uses MARTA the most right now too. But I grew up riding those same exact route of Cleveland Avenue and Metropolitan. And so I was, favor ain't fair, God is so good, I don't have to use it as much as I used to. And so I understand the mission of the buses, and I understand the need for the investment on the south side. And that $50 million price tag, the folks on the south side are extremely happy because they know about the advancements that are about to come, because we did the presentations to the community and we talked about it. We did a complete marketing campaign in which we put out yard signs in the community. We invited community leaders to speak at it. So we did a very in-depth conversation on that, and the community members are waiting to see the shovels come in the ground. I guess I'll start my conversation there. We did so much work on that project that it's the first of its kind. And you tell me if I'm wrong there, first of its kind in which ATL DOT will be combining with MARTA to secure bids.
That's correct.
To procure bids.
Yeah.
And they will also be combining with MARTA to do the projects.
That's right.
And the reason why we did that, and I hope that other council members are able to look at this and use it as a first time, the reason we were able to do this is because we're able to get more bang for our buck, able to get it done faster. But I think what's slowing it down is, I'm trying to find where the bottleneck is in that, because where's the bottleneck in that?
You want me to point, or?
I'm okay with your point.
No,
I'm okay with your point.
No, look,
I'm okay with you pointing. You know me, right? Seriously.
The truth is, you're right. So this is new. This is collaborative. It does everything you said, and it also, as I said earlier in the presentation, it increases the amount of bidders. And when you do that, you get more competition. You get a better product. But because it's the first time, and because we have to now sequence the projects and make sure that you're not paving something before you dig it up, there is a lot more collaboration and coordination that's required. So we work hand in hand with DOT. DOT is in the room. We are progressing as quickly as we can, but we recognize the risk of just being myopic in our approach, so we want to be as collaborative. Sometimes, you go faster if you go alone, but you go further if you go together. That's exactly what's going on here.
And I think what I tried to include, the reason why I'm so happy we're able to work with MARTA on this, right, is because once you make your decision, you put your shovels in the ground and you start moving. Yeah. And so to see it slow down now, it's because we have holes on Cleveland Avenue that we can't even work on. I did a ride along with ATL DOT last week. Yeah. We did a District 12 complete ride along. We have holes in our ground that we keep telling people, just keep riding around it. Just bear with us, because we have a transformative project that we've never seen before. It's going to change it. But if we can try to fix these bottlenecks, and we can probably have to get Peter Amon involved in it. Yeah. And try to get Propel involved in it as well, because when you think about the safe street aspect of it, and if there's any kind of way we can include, because of the uniqueness of this project, we can try to include Propel in it, because there's no safe street that's coming with it. And the BRT, we can't add that portion because there's not enough room in the area to do it. I wouldn't even want to slow it down adding that. So that would be my 2 cents on that piece.
Let me just add a third cent on that, because some of the things that you talked about are in fact part of the collaborations. Okay. Oh yeah, so we've got ATL DOT has a road diet type project along Ralph David Abernathy. We've got the Safe Street project, as you've mentioned, that's included. Project 4092 is a sidewalk installation along Cleveland Avenue, and we've also got similar sidewalk installations along Metropolitan. So there are a number of things being combined here. So I wouldn't call it a bottleneck. It is a necessary pause to make sure we get everything in. And remember, I warned everybody that when we start rolling, there are going to be holes in the ground. So we're going to expedite as quickly as we can to see that progress happen.
And I was going to move on, but you said you was going to point when I asked you what the bottleneck was. You were going to point it first.
All of us. Right? We're working together. We're working together.
And I'll move on to the next thing. Speaking also on what Councilmember Dozier brought up, so many points that helped me. So South Atlanta High School needs a protected bus shelter. I grew up in Atlanta. I was a part of the magnet program. My first year I went to Southside High School, which became Maynard Jackson High School. I then transferred to South Atlanta High School. Maynard always had a nicer bus stop. What Maynard has today and what Mays has and what Midtown has and what different schools have, South Atlanta wants it. We have students that are outside catching the bus every single day. At 12 o'clock today, you're going to see about 30 to 40 students who are going to go to Atlanta Metropolitan State College for schooling. It rains. When I see them hide in the woods as it rains, when I see them sharing umbrellas as it rains, that's something I think we can just help them fix. Yeah. And so both sides, I know that's a huge amenity, and I'm blessed to say I run there every morning. So I know, like, I'm a person that it's a part of my trying to improve my 5K time. I run to South Atlanta High School, and I'm able to see the students get off the MARTA bus and get on the MARTA bus. So that if you can please add South Atlanta High School, just make sure it gets what the other high schools got. We don't want nothing else, just what they got, right? Lastly, a couple more, not lastly, restrooms. I know that that's something I've been chief about since I got in council because of the Bushes story, right? This year I had people call me and say, hey, where are we? Because I know that you're planning to fix all of the restrooms in the city of Atlanta, but currently Lakewood Station, Lakewood and Oakland City, if there's any way we can speed up the process for those two stations, or if you have, can you please let the public know that the restrooms are now open? For
Lakewood and Oakland City, we'll take a look.
Yes.
Thank you.
Lakewood and Oakland City also are two stations no matter what. If you travel to Atlanta, and we're going to encourage you to use MARTA, if you come into the World Cup, you got to go to those two stations. So the improvements, I know we talked about Garnett, we talked about the other stations. Lakewood and Oakland City are guaranteed to see the passengers. Or we didn't do well as a city. That means that MARTA did not meet its quote, because people should take the train from the airport to downtown. Lakewood and Oakland City do not. We need to make sure people are able to have the same stuff. I mean, we want murals when people walk through, because we got murals in East Point, and we got them in West End, but District 12 got skipped. And so just those two, if there's any kind of way we can get what they got, nothing else. We just want what everybody else got. Lastly, more MARTA audit. I wanted to confirm because I was listening to you, right? And so your response is the analyzers, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth, just tell me what I wrote. Good. Your response is the analyzers from the
Malden and Jenkins
were wrong in their analysis of how they looked at you?
Right, correct. The methodology that they used, very, very simply put, they chose a time frame when there was a lot less more MARTA City of Atlanta bus service on the road. They used that ratio and applied it to a time frame when we had a whole lot of bus service on the more MARTA City of Atlanta routes.
And because I wasn't a part of the council when that happened, I want to redirect, quote, a response. And just so I can get a response here, because that's our job to know. And the response from the mayor's office was that the scope, the audit speaks for itself. The scope and parameters were agreed upon by both parties after protracted pushback by MARTA. What's your response to that?
Well, okay. When you read a statement like that, I have but one option, which is to punch back here publicly to a statement that I
And that's a statement that was made by the mayor, not me.
Yeah, so it's a statement that I patently disagree with, but I don't think we need to devolve at this juncture in terms of why I disagree with it.
Okay, so I have a follow-up to that then, because I agree with to be a council person and to understand that for 2 years we've been waiting on this report.
Well, 1 year.
1 year since 2023. 1 year we've been waiting on the report to understand that the scope, according to the folks that the city of Atlanta was agreed upon,
right,
and to have that response back. I'm like, why didn't we know that before this?
Right. You know what? Perfect that you would ask that question. That saves me from getting into any kind of pushback, but that's exactly the question that you want to ask.
I mean, I am. That's the question I am asking.
Yes.
I'm asking you that.
Yeah.
That's a question from me, not from the mayor's office. From me.
I'm anticipating a whole bunch of questions on this audit. Yeah, just let me answer.
Yes,
I'm anticipating a whole bunch of questions on this audit. Let me say a couple of things. One is, as we've just established, this has been over a year in the making. The draft report, not sure when it was available to others, but MARTA just got it on Thursday. MARTA was given 2 days to respond to this 1 year's body of work, over 60 pages, including the weekend. We said that's not enough time. They said that's as much time as you get. So over the weekend, we crafted our response. Sad to say that our response was neither referenced or included in what's been produced. So it is what it is. There's a question there, and it's something that MARTA will continue to deal with the mayor's office, with Malden and Jenkins. But if you're at all able to see MARTA's response, we've put in a summary response to the 10 recommendations, and it's documented and it's widely available to everyone. If you start by reading that, you'll get a truer sense of our opinions on these matters. And so for me to go any deeper than that would frankly be irresponsible, because we need more time to go do the page-by-page review of what they've said, and then we need the time to demonstrate the respect to the mayor's office to make sure that we unpack with them first. There will be an opportunity for both sides to come to an agreement, and so that's why I think it's premature for us to start unpacking anything that might be, you know, counterproductive to the harmony of the relationship at this point.
Okay, so can I ask a question based on what you said in your report today?
Sure.
So in the report, you spoke of the years of 17 and 19.
Yeah.
But the scope was to 23.
Right.
So what about the other 4 years? Because in the report, it says that 40 million is the conversation between 17 and 19, and the response says 20 million between 17 and 19. But what about the other 4 years? Because we're at a $70 million, 70 to, so I won't even, oh, got you.
Okay, yeah, so all the years were taken into account. Malden and Jenkins did include all years in their analysis, so we're good there. There may be, you know, the context of what you're reading may be focused on a particular couple of years, and I think that's what I was trying to share earlier, is that those years between 17 and 19 are at issue in terms of the ratio that you apply to that bus service. That's all that was. But they were thorough in that they did go over all the years up to 2023.
So no issues with the other 4 years?
None to speak of. I mean, I'm not, like I said, it's way too early for me to stand here without material and get into the nitty-gritty of each year. But what I'm saying is they did cover all the years up to 2023.
And last question, if I can,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. So just thinking about money, from the report, it's a lot of money involved here. And even if it's $9 million that MARTA responded they owe, that we can, if we were to refund the taxpayer $9 million, we can probably give over $1,000 per taxpayer in the city of Atlanta. So it's just so much money based on the amount of people in the city of Atlanta. So my question is, how much money do you think, just looking at it, how much money do you think MARTA owes the city, or do you think MARTA owes the city anything at this current time?
Right. Okay, let me answer it this way. There is no check to be written. What's happening here is there are two buckets. Yeah, this is probably instructive for everyone. There are two buckets of money. There's the MARTA General Fund and there's the More MARTA City of Atlanta Fund. Matter is not created or destroyed here. The money sits, all the money sits between these two funds. We haven't spent anything on anything else. It's either here or here. It's like when you're balancing your savings account and your checking account. You have all the money. It's an accounting issue, right?
That makes sense.
And at the end of each year, say, you do a true up and you say, you know what, back in March, I spent something that really should have come out of my checking account. Let me fix that, put it back on the savings account, put it back. That's what we're talking about here, is an administrative true up of the available funds. There's been no, I should lead with this. After a year and lots and 20,000 documents or whatever the number was, no malfeasance, no wrongdoing, no fatal flaw, no corruption, none of that, right? So we should start by acknowledging that. What we're reduced to talking about now is the application of a ratio. And so it's academic, and this is something that, you know, we can go back and forth, and once we agree on it, we'll go back right from the beginning and say, because the IGA has never we've never come to an agreement on how that would be done. So once we come to an agreement on how that could be done, we will apply it properly for every single year, and we will simply move funds from one account to the other. We don't know until we come to an agreement on what equation we're going to use. We don't know what that dollar amount is, but the bottom line is we as a collective still have it.
The true reason why I like Mr. Colley, because he answered any question. So thank you so much for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for being open to all the questions. You even answered questions from the public before, and so thank you again.
Councilwoman Overstreet.
Thank you. thank you for your presentation today, too. Very thorough. However, as I'm following you, there are a few acronyms in here that are brand new.
Okay.
And so, like, you're going to have to use a legend next
Yeah,
time
I'm sorry.
so that I can keep up with the actual acronyms. The first one is Campbellton CIC BRT. We all know BRT, but tell me what CIC is.
Campbellton Corridor Improvement. Community Investment Corridor. Yeah, thank you. Community Investment Corridor.
Corridor Improvement Community Investment
Community,
Corridor.
CIC Community Investment Corridor.
Okay. There's another one. HCT, is that High Capacity Transit?
Right. Yeah.
I was just guessing.
Yeah, no, you did it.
Okay. CPMO.
That's Carrie's department, basically, the Program Management Office.
I'm sorry.
Centralized Program Management Office?
Okay. And there's another one back here. Where there's another HCT. What's that other one I showed you, Alex? PGC.
Program Governance Committee?
Okay, so if we're going to use the acronyms, can we have a legend?
Sure.
Okay, that, because, you know, point made.
No, I fall victim to it myself sometimes, so
Okay.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because it's important. I just want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, and I don't want to assume anything.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we're clear when looking at these important numbers. On that same page where I first had questions about the acronyms, I noticed that the Campbellton CIC BRT and Greenbrier Hub are together, where they're usually separate because they were separate.
What page are you on?
It's not numbered.
Oh.
It's the MARTA programming spending program.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thanks. Slide 9.
Okay. And they're usually separate because I was told that they were separate items. And in the past, on other presentations, they are separate line items. So I'm just trying to figure out why they're together now.
Well, Carrie may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a snapshot of the actual chart that we report on quarterly. It's not a slide. When we put it in slides to have presentations about that specific topic, we're able to break it out. But this has always, I believe, always.
No.
You think this chart has had it broken out separately before?
Yeah,
Or in
it
other
has.
presentations? Yeah.
It has.
Can you speak to that, Carrie?
Yeah, it has, because I've been following it, and they have their own line items over the course of the last 4 years, for sure.
So, good morning. Carrie
morning.
Rocha, Chief Capital Officer for MARTA. I believe if you look back over at least the last 3 or 4 quarters, they have been together because it was requested that we put those projects together, that the Greenbrier Hub be integrated with the Campbellton BRT program. So that project was brought in by request of the city.
Who requested that?
I'm pretty sure we talked about it here.
I didn't request that. 100%, I did not. Because it was always separate, and I always wondered why it was separate, because I was hoping that we would work on them separately, and spoke about that several times because I figured that the hub was as a matter of fact, when we went on our trip, we talked about the importance of the transit center, right? And that was separate from the BRT. And we were looking for a specific spot for the transit center. And we talked about what that would look like. And it had its own line item. It was its own budget. So I definitely didn't ask for them to be together.
We can source the request when it came, and show a timeline in terms of how long they've been combined, and then we can get back to you in terms of the source. And if it wasn't you, we can have you have a conversation with whoever it was. You're suggesting now that you'd like it switched back.
No,
Or
here's the
you like
thing,
it like
I'm
this?
not the expert, and I'm all about expedition, okay, and for it to be done expertly. I'm just trying to find out, does this mean that they're going to run together? Is the hub not coming separately, or before, as it was portrayed
Right,
to me that
right.
it would over at least a few years? It was spoken about how it would come before because of the need to have a hub in that particular corridor, and better utilize the system. I just want to know where all of that changed.
Yeah, so I believe the discussion had been around, if you look at the original sequencing plan, the Greenbrier Transit Hub was further out, and you had asked for that to be brought forward. And so by bringing that into the Campbellton BRT program, first, we're able to make it eligible for federal funds, right? So that's now part of our CIG application, part of the entire project.
I like that.
Okay. So
like that.
That made a lot of sense, especially from, again, making sure that the connections that we're making with the BRT stops are also connected with the transit hub. So you can easily make a multimodal connection, from bus to the BRT or vice versa.
Okay. That was my question. I just want to know, first of all, I want to make sure that it is about expedience, and sounds to me like it is. And so that is fine with me. I also just wanted to make sure that, and I looked at the numbers that you all referenced, I wanted to make sure that that didn't mean that that 5 million would be going away, but it looks like it's all just integrated. So listen, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to be sure. And I also wanted to make sure that I understood what CIC was, so that it wouldn't be something that I didn't know was there. But anyway, okay, so moving on. One more question about the your presentation. When did MARTA provide the mayor with the options for 5 Point?
You're talking about the 10-year fix option?
Yes.
Oh,
Is there another one? Like, is there another time
yeah,
you
okay.
provided him with options?
Absolutely, yeah. The way we arrived at the existing plan, which is 9A reduced, was it started from several options, and it was shaped with the mayor's office and MARTA, and we arrived at this one plan, 9A reduced, the plan. Let's just call that the plan. So yeah, it started from several options, maybe 10, who knows how many, and it was shaped with the mayor's office down to the one. And then at some point, we learned that there was an appetite for further value engineering and maybe pausing everything. I don't remember the date exactly, but it's probably in the last month or two, that there was an appetite to kind of just not do the plan and just do a temporary fix of the roof. And so that's the time frame that other plan started to materialize. Now, that plan is not, the details of that plan is yet not granular because it's that new, so we have to have, engineers actually go through it and scope it and say, to do that, it requires this, this, and this. And that kind of work is going to take the better part of a year for them to come back to us and say, well, you keep calling it a 10-year fix, Collie, but it's only going to last 8 years, or it's going to last 15 years, or, here's what it's actually going to cost because what we found in our destructive testing of the materials, the sediment is, delaminating at a rate faster than we thought, or we found rebar that was rust. We don't know, so it's going to take that much time for us to really get a good picture of what that option looks like.
So am I hearing you to say that you did not provide the mayor with those options? I mean, I'm trying to see if there's something that I missed.
We started with several options.
Are you talking about from the beginning when we first started narrowing down our list?
Yes.
From 17 to 9?
I'm not sure when 5 Points started as a conversation, but yeah, when the Program Governance Committee got together, they started narrowing down from whatever the vast number was down to the one. And the Program Governance Committee, is made up of MARTA and the mayor's representatives.
Okay, so when we got down to 1, are you saying that from the the one choice for 5 points that we all agreed on, that we all agreed that we didn't want to spend so much of our funding on, that one, we'll say January 2024.
Okay.
Since then, you've not provided the mayor with more options for
Right.
5 points.
Right. Since then, we've only talked about that one and the temporary fix.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just trying to
Right. Yeah.
see, because I thought during your presentation, you said that the mayor was provided with options for 5 points.
That's it. That's the one that we have and the temporary fix. Those are the options that he's looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the temporary fix was the 10-year.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so what I need to do then is, well, first of all, I didn't want to leave Campbellton Road without saying, and I did, I skipped and I didn't mean to, but the community engagement, I have received positive feedback from that. So positive feedback and the fact that people are interested in understanding where we're going with it, which is wonderful, because what happens normally is we're digging, turning that dirt, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to know, where's my lane, where's my this, and where's my that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the engagement is happening. I do want to share with you a concern about the bike lane that is not, that's going to be like a shared way. And this came out of just one of the slides that I saw. And so with that information, like the details of what I'm comfortable with on Campbellton, I could do that separately. Doesn't have to be in committee.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that we could start back our quarterly meeting of, just us getting together to see where we are with everything. But, there are different kinds of ways that we can incorporate multimodal. And the shared street on Campbellton is the absolute bottom of the list for what is comfortable for Campbellton Road.
Okay.
So I just wanted to, especially with the new BRT will be there. I just think that having a bike lane shared with cars and everything else is not going to be a good use for Campbellton.
So let's strike up that conversation. I imagine that ATL DOT will have some input into that. We'll work with the bike community and MARTA and just make sure that we all understand what we're looking at.
Yeah, and that's why I just wanted to just throw that out there for now, because that's the only thing that I received. Everybody wanted to know that, did I know about that? And I'm like, well, I'm sure we're not putting just a shared street on Campbellton. And then I saw a slide. So, we have time. I know we're probably at 30% or so of design. And so this is the time to have that conversation. And we
Very
can do
good.
that for sure.
Thank you.
All right. I'll, I'm gonna, Councilmember Lewis actually said one thing that I wanted to reiterate, and as often as I can, I want to reiterate. I don't want us, the whole purpose of me being so passionate about MARTA is I want us to change the narrative around who's on MARTA. And one of his comments was, thank goodness I don't, I don't have to ride it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be our conversation. I want the conversation to move to, I would love it if I could not sit in this traffic and if somebody could do it for me. And I want to be able to use that Campbellton or the whole MARTA system, because it's available and it's relaxing and the experience is great.
Amen.
So
Amen.
those
Thank
are
you
the
for
new
saying
riders.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's better coming from you in this instance, but you're absolutely right. The narrative for MARTA is not about, what you can afford. It's about
That's right.
how intelligent a commuter you actually are.
I want, and listen, I want us to get there.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. And I think I've said this since like literally 2018. I want us to have riders on MARTA just because.
Right. We will.
That's where we are. And I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Next speaker, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thank you for your presentation. In the interest of time, I just have a question and then an observation. Question, Clifton Corridor, where are we at? I see that y'all have put on the project budget and schedules a 2028 projected start of revenue operations. If I roll that back in terms of when construction would need to happen, and then I roll that back in terms of federal funding, and then I roll that back in terms of your project governance committee vote, and then I roll that back with a community meeting, I feel like we're behind. So what can you tell me that's different from what you told me last quarter?
Well, what I can say is we're going to be updating that projected start of revenue operation after we've had communications, completed our outcome of the communications with CSX, as well as the NEPA class of action assessment. So too early right now to know what the date is, but you're absolutely right. I think we have December. I
Just have 2028.
2028, and we've run out of runway to meet that date. But that's not an indication of any lack of effort or momentum. It just means these things have to happen first.
So there's been no significant progress in terms of either that was the same. Those are the same kind of factors last quarter. I'm curious as to where we're at this quarter, because again, the federal funding window is one that we've got to. This we've got a time, and I just want to. It'd be helpful to know where we're at.
Is there anything more on Clifton that we can share with the council member since the last time we spoke? No, not yet. No.
And it's okay. Is it a CSX thing right now, or
in part it is CSX and it's NEPA.
All right. Well, we can take that offline.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to get a more detailed update. So my observation is, we got the audit the same time you did.
Yeah.
And I think your explanation about the money not being gone is helpful, but what concerns me is that no matter where we end up with whatever that right formula is and what the right money piece of it is, the public concern is that money from more MARTA, whatever $1 million that is, may have been incorrectly allocated or would have to be has been expended out that is not going to get paid back from your general fund. And then we're in an environment where we see the quarterly projections of the money that you are spending. And we also know we're in an environment where construction costs are moving away from us. And so there is a risk and a concern of some of the projects that have been promised will not be delivered. And the audit even talks about needing to re-tier the projects. So while I agree that there's not your words, malfeasance, no corruption, what problem there is that there has been, and I was going to use the word grind, but at least grind has the connotation of progress in that you grind it out because you're going to get there. It feels more like churn. Except for butter, churn is where you just kind of spin and spin and spin and nothing's happening. And I just want to articulate that that's the concern I've got. It's just we're going to burn up all these funds to where the projects are going to be in jeopardy, and that's the music we have to face together, both the city and MARTA. So I just put that observation out there. Again, the formula will be what the formula is. The dollar amount will be what the dollar amount is, but the concerns and the perceptions out there are real, and I think they are justified. No matter if it's $1, $10, $70 million, we've got to be honest about that. So that's my observation, and I hope that as these quarterly reports continue on, that much like some of the projects that are underway, hopefully more and more will be underway, and it'll just kind of alleviate that concern that folks have.
Yeah, the only issue I will take there, and thank you for your comments, Councilmember Juan. We all want progress. I think the operational team is more unhappy with lack of progress than anyone else. We are action-oriented, and every time we have to stop and talk and revisit and rethink and re-engineer and reprioritize, we're aware that that money continues to burn because those soft costs don't go away. We are aware that Skanska is on hold right now at a cost of maybe $10,000 a day. We are aware of the increase in costs for the amount of times that we are asked to stop and rediscuss and rethink, but it is our obligation to do just that. Okay. And so we're happy to do that. It's not about honesty. We've never been dishonest in terms of how we're spending. As I said earlier, the money is there and accounted for. It's just a question of what account are we going to let it sit in. And so thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Council President Shipman, have questions.
Thank you, CEO Greenwood. Thanks for being here today. Let me start with just a few things on the presentation. Let me just clarify something that I thought I heard, what I want to make sure about 5 Point Station. The mayor currently has two options in front of him, basically the plan as it was, the large plan with the canopy coming off,
yes,
and a smaller 10-year plan.
Correct.
Is the process going forward that he will decide, or is there still a negotiation between MARTA and the mayor as to the way forward? I'm just trying to understand who's got the ball.
It's been iterative and collaborative and progressive to this point. I believe the mayor's asked some really good questions. I think in answering those questions and digging deeper, we've been able to come up with a number of possible improvements that have yet to be discussed here. I would be, of course, I'd be thrilled if the mayor would say, okay, well, based on these new revelations and these commitments, we can move forward with the plan. However, it's up to the mayor to tell us what his position is on the matter. And I believe there's one more bit of information that he needs and we're working on in order to finalize his decision. At that point, it will be a question for the MARTA board, and if the mayor says we're good, keep rolling with the plan, then there's no issue. We just keep going, and there's nothing required. All the agreements have already been made. The PGC has agreed. All of that is good. We're really pausing out of respect for the position and making sure that he's as happy as he can be. If he says he's good, we're going. If he says he's not good, we have to go back to the MARTA board to say, look, we're at an impasse here, and then the decision will lie largely with the MARTA board technically, but as you know, we are one of the main things we're trying to do is maintain a harmony in the atmosphere. It's not about one project. It's about, the next 15 years of progress inside this city, and we don't do that on an island.
And just as a follow-up, I know there was a contract signed for the 5 Point Station.
Yes.
Does it have enough flexibility for an alternative? Or would you have to go back and redo that contract? If the MARTA board were to say, hey, okay, let's go in a different direction, is it actually possible, given that you got a contract in place?
It likely would not be the same contractor.
Okay.
Very different product. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Streetcar East Extension, last time you were here, I asked you about a consultant report. You said you had gotten it, but had sent it back. Have you gotten the revision?
We do have the revision, and we've got some internal meetings scheduled today. Yeah, so we'll be discussing it today to get to some conclusions about where that is. And I think that discussion includes folks from the Beltline. Carrie? Okay, so internal today, and then we'll extend the conversation to the Beltline.
And the mayor has spoken to his wanting data on different potential modes of transit beyond just streetcar.
Yes.
Is that included in your report? He said publicly that he's got a consultant who's working on that. Is that the same report, or is that a separate report?
So I haven't read the report that's come back. I don't believe it includes other modes.
Okay, so this is just on the attributes for the streetcar extension itself. Okay. That's helpful. One thing that was in your report, but that was public, and I'm hoping you can clarify, Semaphore, a company, released a press release a few days ago that said that they were going to run a pilot AV project, which if you looked at the pictures looked like personal pods. And it said from the convention center, the downtown convention center to the airport. Some folks have speculated that that was from the Georgia World Congress Center to the airport. Some others have speculated that that actually was from the Georgia International Convention Center down by the airport to the airport. So in essence, College Park to the airport. And there was a reference that MARTA was also involved. Do you have any clarity on this?
Semaphore?
Correct.
That that company name does not ring a bell with me. I am aware of.
Sorry, Glideways is the company.
Glideways, yes, absolutely.
Semaphore is
yes.
at the top of the press release.
Yeah.
I apologize. Semaphore is the outlet. Glideways
Yes.
is the company.
Yeah.
My apologies. The
Yeah,
Glideways
so
report.
we have been working with Glideways and, South Fulton and Gerald, just to do a demonstration project. They're trying to do a demonstration project to determine the feasibility of something like that in that area. So, largely that company will largely self-fund the operation for people to get a look and develop a level of comfort with that concept.
But that is actually College Park, South Fulton. That's not slated to run to downtown Atlanta, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I just wanted the public to clarify. I got a lot of questions about that, and I thought that was the case, but I thought you'd be in a good position to clarify. I appreciate that. So let me turn to the audit. I do have a few questions. I have read the entire audit. I have also read your response. I want to reiterate something that Councilmember Juan said, at least for myself. I never saw a draft presentation of the audit at all along the way. I heard through the press certain things and then saw the final report. So that's all that I'm working off of. So I want to go back to when Council members Overstreet and Farokhi and I called for an audit. There was a statement that's titled Statement on City Council Audit of More MARTA Program that was issued by MARTA, and the opening line of it is, "This position by the Atlanta City Council is disappointing and disingenuous." Do you feel like the audit has been disappointing and disingenuous, or do you think the audit has been helpful?
Well, the audit's been helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Also in that statement, it said that such a review will obligate MARTA to pause work on all more MARTA Atlanta projects with the exception of Summerhill and 5 Points. That does not seem to have been the case, correct? You've been able to make progress on a host of projects in the last year and a half.
It would be, let's be honest, the level of progress that we've made in the past year would have been greater had staff not been engaged in this audit. I forget the number of reports, something like 20,000 reports have been generated. That doesn't come magically, that comes from the very staff that are involved in advancing the projects that we're talking about. So yes, there has been a year-long effect on MARTA for being involved in the audit.
In the audit, it's pointed out that the reprioritization plan has not been actually finally adopted through the IGA agreement. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would have to say that is correct.
Okay. Why?
I believe that there's a requirement for the City of Atlanta, the Mayor's Cabinet, in the Program Governance Committee to align on the list. So you know, and the folks in this room know that I've stood here in the past and said, here's the new list. Here's Tier 1, here's Tier 2. There's no doubt about where MARTA stands on this list, and we've come out publicly and said this is what it needs to be. But it does have to be a joint agreement, and so I'll leave it to your power of deduction. But when we don't have that joint agreement moving forward, then that means that there's perhaps some hesitation. And you've seen recently a couple of projects, while the infill stations, for one, have been announced as something that we're trying to move forward. They're not on that list. So, it's an example of the fact that there is a requirement perhaps for some flexibility, but that's just the environment we're working in.
And just to that point, in your response under the observation 3 and recommendation 3, the response, and when I say you, I mean MARTA, it says MARTA's responses agree the resequencing plan needs to be revised. So at this point, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you basically working on the 9 project list, but agree that the overall list needs to be revised? Is
Correct.
that a fair?
That's fair.
So you're not actually kind of working all 17 at the same time?
That's correct. Yeah, ever since we stood here and said it's this tier, that's where we've been focused, but we are aware that until that new list is signed, we are technically responsible for all of them.
Got it. There are a lot of parts of the audit, and I have a copy here if you want to look at it.
Oh, I remember it.
Great. If you look back at pages, for instance, 70, 71, 72, 73, there are many references to tracking being done in Excel, tracking being done kind of to that more MARTA is tracked to the side. It's not necessarily, the capital costs seem to be in Oracle, but the project costs all seem to be kind of tracked separately. Is that, do you agree that that in fact is the way that the more MARTA program is being tracked, that it's not actually in your chart of accounts in the same way that other things are?
No, specifically to that, it goes to the earlier question that I said. MARTA is working on a detailed response to all of these observations, right. And so you will get our flat-out response to that, when we've had time to properly unpack it.
Okay, so I think there is. I would just underline that part. I think that to Councilmember Wan's point, knowing how the tracking is being done, to make sure that tracking is being done in very standard ways and not in separate ways. I understand why at the very beginning that might be the case, but obviously this is a massive program now. It's multiple years in the making. Yep. So a response on that, especially these notions that tracking is being done somehow in sort of a hand calculated fashion or in an extra step fashion, I think is something that somebody who's run organizations would be a concern. So I want to go to the years, and I just want to go down through the FY22, FY20 to 21, and the FY17 to 19. So the auditors on page 8, in starting with FY22, they state that while responding to questions posed by the MNJ team in the audit process, MARTA identified errors that led to MARTA overstating more MARTA Atlanta VRH percentages and more MARTA Atlanta VRMs for FY22, and MARTA corrected the calculations. In your response, you only spoke to 17 to 19. Does MARTA agree that, in fact, with that observation around FY22?
So that is for vehicle revenue miles and vehicle revenue hours. I don't think we took issue with the later calculation. Correct, yeah. That number would be accurate. Yeah. So whether we use the essential service has yet to be determined. The non-essential service.
Excuse me, stop please. Yeah. So we can authenticate
I will, to the mic. Yes, and I was about to restate, but Kevin, why don't you come on up? So this is our CFO, Kevin Hurley, and what Kevin will do is, basically establish what I had said earlier, that, it's really about the equation that was used during COVID, the secondary time frame, as opposed to the pre-COVID time frame.
So yes, sir, and thank you, council. The utilization, if we were to utilize the essential service model method for FY 2022, the numbers are in line with that model. The decision, if we go back and come to an agreement on a methodology that should be used going forward, we'd look at 17 and carry that forward. I don't know that FY22 would still be the numbers that were presented in the audit.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes. So you do take issue with the FY22 calculation?
Well, no, it's not that we're taking issue. We're saying that we need time to understand how they arrived at their methodology and see if it actually applies. Once that conversation, I think one of the first pieces of that conversation is going to be us impressing upon them why it does not apply, right? Why you can't use the 2021, 22, 23 and apply it back to 2017.
No, I'm just talking about FY22 right now. I'm just talking about FY17.
But it cuts both ways. So we're going to have to get a full understanding of how they arrived at their methodology before we can stand here publicly and say we agree or disagree.
So it's not correct that MARTA agrees with the corrected calculation?
We agree that there's a true up required, and that if there is an element that MARTA's discovered in terms of was it the markup?
Yes, in utilizing the methodology that was used in FY22, which was the essential service methodology of applying the ratio, the service miles and hours, there were some routes that were discovered that they reduced the service miles and hours on those particular routes, and they should not have been charged to more MARTA, utilizing the essential service methodology. We would agree that using that methodology that was presented, that $9 million number, we verified. The reality is, are we going to use that method going forward? We don't know the answer to that. We have to come to an agreement. It's probably something that needs to be incorporated into the IGA so we can all move forward and understand how we're going to calculate.
Which methodology did you use in FY22? Did MARTA use to calculate?
We were using that methodology at that point.
The essential services model. So you were using the essential services model. You applied that to FY22. During the audit, it was found that using that model, there was an incorrect calculation.
It was actually done prior to them doing the audit, but yes, it was when we gave them data. We were all having a dialogue on it, and the service planners realized there were some additional hours and miles that should not be included, and we went back and corrected it.
Got it. So let's go to FY20 and 21. For FY20 and 21, basically, it states that M&J did a calculation, and then it states that MARTA financial staff stated that they had applied revised figures to the cost allocation, and that the discrepancy was fairly close between the two figures. M&J's figure was 16.37 million. It says that MARTA's revised calculation was similar in nature. Do you agree that in fact, that there's alignment between your revised calculation and M&J's calculation?
Yeah, they're similar. There's a few $1 million difference in what we calculated it and what M&J calculated it as.
But the audit for FY20 and 21, does MARTA agree that there is a discrepancy in the methodology you were using at the time for what was charged to MARTA? Yes. Okay. So just so I'm clear, for FY20, 21, and 22, MARTA and the auditors agree that given the calculations at the time, MARTA was overcharged. Separate conversation that you're saying is the city, the mayor's office, and MARTA needs to come to an agreement on what calculation should have been used, and that might change the numbers.
Yes, sir.
Did I got that stated fairly? Okay. So let's go back to FY17 and 19, which seems to be the real crux of the disagreement. So would you agree with the auditor's assessment that there is no documentation for how that calculation in those years was done?
No, I would not agree with that. We did provide documentation on how it was done. What was not provided was system-generated data. What was provided was a former senior director at MARTA done the calculations for how much service was being put out. Those calculations were provided to them. Those were the calculations that MARTA used. How to track that back into our scheduling system, we did not have that originating documentation. But they were supplied the documentation that we utilized to prepare our estimates.
So would you agree or disagree with the statement on page 8 that no current MARTA staff have experience or stated knowledge of performing the methodology or methodologies that MARTA used to calculate the MARTA Atlanta program's operational program cost allocations from FY17 to FY19?
I would agree and disagree. I would disagree that there's people that do not know how it was calculated. I would agree that the initial we don't know exactly how the former senior director pulled that information from our system to do the calculations. Like you referenced earlier, there are some manual efforts to allocate those. So I don't know how he did that, but the numbers that he provided to us, certainly once we receive those, we know how they were applied and carried forward into the analysis.
So I guess the question is, and you were on the team, that you weren't the director at the time, is that correct?
I was not on, I was in the room when there was discussions about more MARTA.
Yeah.
It was predominantly led by the budget director. I was the treasurer at the time.
Gotcha. So
I'm just gonna interrupt. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Let me just go back to a statement I said in the beginning. MARTA has had very little time to react to the page by page. And so this level of questioning is very good, but I think the timing is not where it needs to be. I think MARTA needs time to actually go over, formulate our responses to the actual report, and then we'll be in a better position to do the page-by-page analysis that you're trying to go through with us this morning.
Well, in your response, there's a page and a half refuting the FY17 to FY19 in some great detail, including a line that says, using this methodology in FY17, for example, results in the 435% decrease in revenue mile costs and 460% decrease in revenue hour costs.
Yeah.
Though the auditors clearly show that there were not those level of decreases in their calculations. So, I mean, clearly you've done a detailed level of math to refute this. I'm just trying to follow your logic to understand
So we've
refutation.
done, I wouldn't say that it's detailed. We've done enough to say that this doesn't work. And now we're going to spend the time with the auditors, with the mayor's office, explaining why that doesn't work. But this is not the venue for that.
Let me ask you a simple question. Can you recalculate and get to the numbers that actually were charged to more MARTA in FY17 to FY19 in a documented fashion? Can you recreate your own MARTAs, not yours, MARTAs charged to the city in those 3 years?
We're working on that.
Can you do it today?
Can I do it today? No.
Can MARTA do it today?
Well, I don't know. I can tell you that they're working on that. I don't know if they've come to it or not.
And I would also put a bit of a finer point on this question. In the Transportation Committee in March of 2023, I asked you how the decisions for the level of service was made in those years, those specific years, because they were well over what had been contemplated when more MARTA was passed. And you said, I don't have a piece of paper, but we'll look for one. Clearly, there is not an indication that there is any documentation on how the decisions for the increases were made. Now, you and I and others on this committee asked specifically, the question that's driving our concern is the difference between what was charged to more MARTA in FY17 forward and the services that were delivered. So you may have had 2 days to respond to this particular report, but you have had 18 months to respond to the fundamental question.
Well, thank you for getting to your point. And let me just flatly go back and say, you are asking us if we knew how the decisions were made at a time that we weren't there. The salient point there is the decisions were made, the service was added. There was no one that said, this is too much, put it back. So I hope you're not suggesting that we snuck that level of service onto the city and the councilors at the time were unwilling participants in this. The fact is, the service was provided, the bills are to be paid, and it's on more MARTA City of Atlanta to pay for the level of service that they were provided. So we shouldn't be wading into the thought that, nobody asked for it, you can't prove that we asked for it, ergo we shouldn't pay for it. And I fear that's where you're treading.
I am simply trying to understand the stream of decisions and calculations that were made that led to a very large bill being charged to more MARTA for what continues to seem like service that was not delivered. And the calculations are key, as you have said, from FY17 to 19, as to how the calculation for services delivered, thus charges to more MARTA were made. And thus far,
but let's not back out of the fact. Let's not back out of the fact that this.
Hold on, because at the end of the day, this is my meeting.
Thank you.
Let the person finish speaking before the other person starts. Thank you.
It's cyclical.
So I am simply hopeful that we can actually get to a calculation for FY17 through 19 that is well documented to how it was done.
So, finished? All right, you're still working on the idea that the service that was provided either wasn't provided or wasn't asked for by the City of Atlanta. So let's just be clear about that. One, the service was provided, and two, the City of Atlanta wanted that service. Now you're asking for proof of that. So we'll continue to look, and if we don't have proof of it, the fact remains you got the service, you have to pay for it. In respect to Councilmember Amos, I don't think we need to go back over that line of thinking. That's the position that we're in.
Just one moment. I want to reference specifically for the record a chart that's included. If you look in the audit on pages 6 and 7, and you look at weekly MARTA at Atlanta Enhanced Bus Service VRMs, weekend VRMs. If you look at page 5, you've got also weekly VRMs. Those charts seem to indicate that enhanced bus service happened to some extent from 17 through August of 20, and then basically kind of returned very close to the baseline.
On the weekly chart.
On the weekly chart,
Yep.
exactly, and on the weekend chart that it remained above the baseline.
Correct.
So there is a level of service that increased, clearly. The question is it commensurate with the dollars that were charged back to MARTA? And thus far, that calculation cannot be recreated. Is that correct?
I don't believe that is correct, but as I've said before, we're going to do a page by page and we'll have that answer. Councilmember Amos, I think Mr. Shipman is asking me to stand here without the benefit of the analysis and the time we need to do it, and sort of in a courtroom drama style agree to things that, you know, he surmises and that I don't necessarily agree to.
Well, I look forward to the detailed response around this, and I hope that we can both come to a conclusion on what should go back to MARTA from FY20 through 22, and if and how much should go back to MARTA from FY17 to 19. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I see we have Councilmember Lewis.
Once again, you answer all the questions. One thing about you. So I'll get straight to my point, and I'll get finished real fast. The question I have after listening to that, listen to your answers, since the audit started, we haven't done any work other than the one project that we spoke of, which is I apologize, let me phrase my question, get to my point and finish it real fast. Since the audit started, the only project that, according to your words, according to what you just said, the only project that's moved forward is the 5 Points project?
No, what I said was we haven't moved as fast and as far as we otherwise would have had we not been engaged with the audit.
Okay, and the reason I asked that question is because I'm similar to down here, and these two different offices are doing those two different things. So is there a reason for that? Because I know that, like you and I, we all know that the people that are doing the audit or sending the paperwork about the audit are not the people with putting the shovels in the ground. So is there a reason that these projects are held up because of this?
Yeah, because the people involved in answering the questions, walking the auditors through, understanding the information, they're the very people that are charged with developing the design and the programs.
And I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chair Overstreet.
Thank you. I didn't think we were going to get into, real audit talk today, so I curtailed some of my comments, and I'm still going to curtail them. But at the end of the day, I do want to speak about council members and what we're comfortable with and what we're not. Council members or council is never going to be okay with wrong-sized projects, with wrong pricing and wrong funding. So, that was insinuated. I'm definitely not okay with that. And also, I'm also not going to be okay with an explanation of, I was in the room, but I didn't know about it, and I don't know how we got to those numbers. Like, we're not sure where those numbers came from, and I don't know if we can recreate those I'm talking about the audits from 17 through 19. I don't require an answer from you or anyone else today during committee meeting. I don't. But I definitely want to make sure that expectations are right where they need to be. I expect for everyone to be at the table making the right assertions about something so important to our residents, the tax dollars that are spent on expanding our transportation grid. We are installing, feels like 1,000 units a day of living. We're asking people to come and live in Atlanta. We can't keep the same transportation grid. So at the end of the day, it really is all of our goal, like everyone, to have an experience on MARTA where MARTA is being used for those that need it and those that don't really need it, and really and truly alleviating the traffic in our city. So we can't forget why we're here and get, you know, caught up in saying anything. Like when we say, yes, I was there, I'm the treasurer, but I don't really know how we got those numbers. I just don't think that that's where we need to be.
So, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I agree with your general assessment that MARTA's here for a reason. It's to provide transit and build the community. But, you know, Councilmember Lewis said that we try to answer every question, and that's true. And I tried to set the stage when I started this morning by saying we've had limited number of days to look at this. We're not interested in getting into a page-by-page review. We will get those answers in time as a group and put them in writing in front of you. So all of those answers are coming. I think it's unfair, frankly, to ask the CFO to go on his memory of a time where he was not in the seat, and he gives us his best answer, and then we actually start to use that against him in the moment. That's the kind of response that will have MARTA saying, you'll get our response when you get our response, and stop trying to actually work as real people in a collaborative spirit. So I trust you'll agree with me that those comments are not to be held against the individual who's simply trying to give his best in the moment. You will get our fulsome response to this audit, page by page, in due course.
Okay. Even afterwards, after that, you even went on to say that you will try to see if you can recreate how those numbers came about.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you have that information. You have it. MARTA had, like, it's just a matter of record. All of it is. So the answer is yes, we're all working towards the same things. We're going to get it to you.
Well, but I'd rather be sure of that. So let me be sure of that before I say that. For the moment, let me say I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best.
Okay. I guess that's where we're going to stay. Also, back to council members. At no time did I believe any council member say, we agreed and trust that MARTA will spend our funding however they deem necessary, no matter what the product or project is. So by you saying that the city knew everything and agreed on everything that MARTA has ever done and it's going to cost what it costs, like that's not a fair assessment either.
So that was specific to enhanced bus. That's saying there is no way that the council members, and it wasn't you, but the council members at the time were present as the bus service was being added. MARTA did not do that in a vacuum. It was with the full knowledge of the council members of the day. That's a fact. I mean, how could it logically be otherwise?
So I remember having a conversation when we all learned about enhanced bus service here in our transportation committee, and we were very concerned about it. I remember some specific comments from Councilmember Faroki, who's not here today, and I remember a few things that I said as well. So there are incidences where we all have had questions about where are we going with our projects and the funding. So let's not make it seem as if we are always clear about everything and that we shouldn't have questions about anything.
Agreed.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you. I think I'll close us out. You know, Mr. Greenwood, I've always admired and respected your leadership, the way you stand there, the way you take questions, the way you move forward. And out of our mutual respect for each other, I'm going to have to say I'm a little bit disappointed today. And here's why. What did you think you was going to get with slide number 8? And I noticed when you was doing your presentation, you started off talking about slide number 8 will address the more MARTA Atlanta program specifically. And then the first slide up under that, you bring forward the audit. Audit, you say you're not available, you're not ready to talk about. You introduced that slide.
Right.
Then I noticed when you was talking about the slide, probably about 45 seconds into the slide, you came upon a word. That word, your voice got lowered a little bit, you broke eye contact, your entire demeanor changed because that word was flawed. Flawed may be similar to incorrect, may be similar to wrong, but flawed still has this negative connotation. So since you introduced this word into an audit that you're not prepared to talk about, I would like to know, what did you expect from the questions you was going to get asked? And then the other question, if the methodology is flawed, what is the correct one? And then why did we waste time for a whole year without even bringing that up or bringing that back to us or mentioning it to the end of the audit?
Right. I don't know where to start. Okay, so I brought it up. I put a slide together about the audit because it's happened. Because, you know, it'd be the elephant in the room if I didn't put that slide up and address it in some regard. The term flawed methodologies, because we were recently made aware of the methodology that they're using. I believe there's an open records request that we had to file to get all the information we needed to even start looking at how they arrived at that. And I believe that it's been partially met to this point in time. So, yeah, it's not like I could have come to you 4 months ago to say, look, there's a flaw. We waited until they put their report out. Maybe if we had had a few weeks with the thing, we could have done some communication, but all we have is what they've given us and our response. And our response, I stand here and say there is a flaw. Now, if my voice changed or if my eye contact changed, I got to track those things a little bit more closely, because that's immaterial to the message that I was delivering. It doesn't change at all.
And it speaks to leadership and credibility, because definitely the mayor representing the city of Atlanta, you're representing MARTA. But when you're talking to this body, we're representing the people that are calling us constantly, asking about projects. When you're talking about, and they don't care. They don't care what pot of money it in, whether it's a true up. Only thing they know is Vine City still exists as Vine City. When I talked about it, we realized your name wasn't even on the station. Is it there now? That's just how much attention you give to these stations. As we talk about Garnett, as we talk about 5 Points. So you want us to believe that we can move mountains when the low-hanging fruit is not being taken care of.
Can you corroborate those two statements? What, moving mountains?
So moving mountains is, we believe that we can get this MARTA stuff, all of the programs that's listed, everything up and down Campbellton and everything, and you're not even listening to the body who brings the smallest things
such as
to you. So perfect example. You just stood here for an hour and a half. We have told you what the people care about. Then you ask me such as
no, you're saying, you're listing, listen, you're positioning certain things as low-hanging fruit, and I don't see any of this as low-hanging fruit. So what are you referring to as low-hanging fruit?
Low-hanging fruit. When we tell one of our international friends that's coming over for the World Cup to go to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they pull up at the Georgia Dome Phillips Arena Stadium. When I tell a friend that's riding down Lowry to go to the Ashby Street station, low-hanging fruit. Those simple things have not been taken care of.
Okay, so you're talking about station naming conventions?
Just not particular.
I mean that is, you got
low-hanging fruit. What I'm asking you to do is, I just got a text from the analyst for the finance committee saying that you will be prepared, or we as council are scheduling a discussion on Wednesday, September 25th at the finance committee.
Right.
Hopefully you will be prepared, since you're not prepared now, to answer these questions. That's what I'm asking.
Absolutely. We'll see you in September.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Committee, that takes us to our regular scheduled program. Remind you that we probably got about an hour and 10 minutes for finance need this room, so hopefully we can get through this. Mr. Overton, second readings, please.
Sir, ordinance for second reading, item number 1, 24-01440, an ordinance by the Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a quitclaim deed to the College Park Business and Industrial Development Authority to convey tax parcel listed herein, located on Redwine Road, College Park, Georgia, and to execute a quitclaim deed to the College Park Business and Industrial Development Authority to convey tax parcels listed herein, located on the south side of Harvard Avenue in College Park, Georgia, for the purposes of consummating the transactions authorized by Ordinance 12-0055 and for other purposes.
Have a motion to approve? Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, item number 2, 24-01441, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the procurement source selection provisions of Division 4 of Chapter 2, Article 10 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to revive and authorize the mayor or his designee to execute an amendment to extend SP-S 1210101 with Travelers Aid of Metropolitan Atlanta Incorporated, doing business as Hope Atlanta, on behalf of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, on a month-to-month basis, not exceeding 6 months, retroactively effective May 11, 2024, and to add funding in an amount not to exceed $303,218.67. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve? Motion has been made and second. We have one question.
Yeah, is someone from aviation here that can, or maybe procurement? Just want to understand the status of this, because we were already past the 90-day administrative extension, and this was originally bid in December of last year. So something's going on. What's going on?
Yeah, Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager, Department of Aviation. There is a second solicitation that is in process now, so I can't really speak to that. DOP would have to address that. But that is, I think the responses were due either yesterday or today, and so this will extend the contract to allow us to get past that extension period.
Thanks. Okay, this just feels very unusual. I mean, especially since, well, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, at this point, I do want to bring up the positive work that has been done with the vendors of the airport, working with the airport as well, and the council office and the mayor's office around the unhoused population. You know, we changed the timing, well, the time that you can be in the airport without a ticket and things of that nature. And hopefully this is the organization that has helped tremendously working with our unhoused as well. So there's a motion to approve has been made and second. Please open the vote if there's any discussion. Okay, the vote is open.
Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, there is a request to substitute this item.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Substitute item is before us. Please read the caption.
The substitute, for the record, adds adds account information and changes the caption. So this is item number 3, 24-01448, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook as substituted by Transportation Committee, an ordinance waiving Part 2, Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 4 of the City of Atlanta Code of Atlanta City Code, authorizing the mayor and his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute the Second Amendment to a contract number listed herein for the LMIG Street Resurfacing Project Group 1 North with Stewart Brothers Incorporated, and to exercise the final renewal option for a term of 1 year effective November 13th, 2024 through November 12th, 2025, to add funding in an amount not to exceed $7,147,240.32. All contractor work should be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
We have speakers. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a couple of questions for the department for both this item and the next item. I know there was some comment earlier about concern about whether or not safety improvements were going to be included as part of this funding opportunity. I know when our office spoke with the department, particularly for the District 4 projects, we had contemplated in some depth the need for improvements, at least along Centennial Olympic Park Drive and Marietta Street. Centennial Olympic Park gets about 3 million visitors every year, and these are 5-lane streets, particularly with Centennial Olympic Park Drive, and trying to figure out how we can ensure that there's more intentional connectivity with the rest of downtown, and I don't want to lose sight of that. And so I just was curious from the department's perspective what's going on with that, and whether or not this is the end-all be-all for the opportunity for safety enhancements, at least in my district, but I recognize that, these are citywide projects, and I don't want to, delay anything with regards to what's happening with the rest of the city, but just want to make sure that folks can get around safely. So can you respond to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Solomon Cavanis, Commissioner, Atlanta Department of Transportation. Yes, short answer to your question, we'll work with all of our partners and council to make sure that we include safety as part of that, not only for the resurfacing, but also other safety measures, i.e. signing and other treatments.
Would there be an opportunity to have a more in-depth discussion with the department before the final vote next week? And I'm biased here. I'm very interested in my projects, and I just want to know what changes are going to be happening. I know we just released the Vision Zero action plan, and I know the intent is to look at every project that the city is working with stakeholders, whether it's projects like this through LMIG, whether it's moving Atlanta forward, whether it's the work that's been going on with MARTA to ensure that Vision Zero is central to the design work that's happening there. And I just want to get some clarity of what we can expect with this project list and what that means for safety and improvements for
Sure. And obviously, this is a pivot from how we've managed LMIG in the past. We want to make sure that we get trucks out and we have the most efficient approach to resurfacing throughout the city. So again, short answer, yes, we'll make time to meet with you.
Okay, and I know with the holiday coming up, preferably by the end of the week, that'd be great.
Sure.
So, I know was there a motion already made?
That's why my button's on.
Okay, I'm actually gonna end up abstaining until I get some more clarity on my projects, but I'll yield for my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember Overstreet.
I understand the importance of safety for sure. I truly know that this, resurfacing is not the end all to be all for safety opportunities, along these corridors. Campbellton Road hadn't been repaved in 30 years or more, and we've talked about that at length. We're beating that horse to death until I actually see the resurfacing and the striping there. I don't mind if you'd like to pull number 4 out and maybe make it a separate piece of legislation. Is that an option for you? Because I want to make sure we get this paper passed.
We can after that conversation, we'll see what next steps are. So I'm fine to move this.
Okay. Okay. Move approval. Oh. Okay.
There is a motion on the floor. I second the motion. Now we go back to discussion. You finish speaking? Councilmember Lewis.
Similar to Councilmember Overstreet, District 12, to me, University Avenue is the worst road in the state of Georgia. You can't drive down it. It's a connector road. I mean, you think about Metropolitan Parkway, you think about Pryor Road, they're connector roads to get you anywhere in the city of Atlanta. And so people use University as a connector. And so right now we can't drive down it. We've had investment like the Pittsburgh Yards come to University Avenue, and so that has increased the amount of traffic over there. The one question I had about this, and I'm looking at these signatures at the bottom, and question to the administration. I know that I know that previously we rubber stamped a lot of these interim hires. I see LaShondra Burks, and she's the interim currently, correct? It should say interim chief operating officer. It has to say interim to make this true. So I want to make these paperworks true because we aren't just rubber stamping these things anymore. We need to make sure as the council that we're looking at these before he hires folks. Thank you.
Councilmember Juan.
Thank you. Whoever made the motion, I'd like to add a condition. Since you are pulling from this table from the LMIG 2022 and 2023 grant funds, I'd like to get what the actual total dollar amounts were for each one of those 2 years, just so that we know what you're pulling from them.
Sure.
And I'm assuming, and by that I mean the dollars that were not yet committed, so that we know kind of what the balance is. So I'd ask the mover to add that condition to the motion, just so that we get the LMIG 2022-23 balances.
Reluctantly, sure.
And mind you, that legislation was passed prior that laid that out, so I'll make sure that it's shared.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay, thank you.
So there's a motion on the floor has been made and second in the discussion. Seeing none, please open the vote.
Just a quick correction. We actually are voting on item number 4, not item number 3. We skipped over one by accident. We'll go back to it next. But
So wait a minute, so we can be clear.
Yeah, we're on,
Because everyone was on, along with me, item number 3. And you saying we're on 4?
there is an error in the substitutes that were sent over. They were numbered wrong, but they're both LMIG papers. One of these is the first group, the North group, and then the second paper is going to be for the South group.
Okay. So we can be clear. You want to, yeah.
item number 3?
Item number 4.
Number 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Move approval without recommendation on condition.
And I second.
Was item number 4?
Okay. There's a motion on the floor has been made and second. We do have some questions about item number 4.
Thank you, Chairman Amos. Thank you, Commissioner Cavanis. So this is basically adding dollars from various accounts to our already existing LMIG work contract through a second amendment on both of these. And just, I think, so to make everyone aware, I believe you've labeled Dustin dollars as the $12 million that we passed, not this budget, but the last budget, specific for resurfacing and safety projects. I guess my question is, first question is, the streets that we are adding to this 2021 LMIG with Stewart Brothers and the one with Magnum, what is the timeline for the contractors to complete this work? When will the first street start? When will the last street end?
So I will give an estimation for the spring, considering the pace of work and weather.
Starting or completing?
I'm sorry, completing this spring, starting as early as this fall. So obviously there are impacts.
Fall like first day of fall or December 21st?
And I'm very careful to provide you with an answer you could hold me to, but we're looking at September.
And then the answer to that question, as we move forward, and you've thankfully included the future list. So number one, my colleagues, if you want to see more quote unquote Dustin dollars on these charts, then please get your selected projects over to DOT so they can be placed on there. Because right now it looks like District 9 is getting a whole lot of stuff and others aren't. That's because I've submitted my list and it's been approved. So given that, and I did receive approval from you, getting all those streets trued up, making sure it was in the constraints of what's available in LMIG. We're behind multiple years, so we have millions of dollars there, plus the quote unquote Dustin dollars, and I've decided to use $1 million of my district non-specific MAF money, these planned future resurfacing lists, when will this contract come to fruition? Where are we with getting this future list going?
Yeah, so we see it as contiguous to this list. It obviously is contingent on GDOT's appropriation of those dollars for 2024. So as early as this spring, 2025, and into the summer.
And so that future contract, this council, this committee should see that sometime in early 25?
Absolutely.
And then work would start spring?
Spring of 25.
All right, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. So to be correct, we're on item number 4 has been made, and motion has been made and second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable, takes us back to item number 3. Make a motion to substitute.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Substitute. Can we repeat the mover and the seconder, please?
I made the motion. Hill is second.
Thank you. Okay, vote is open. Vote is closed.
Thank you. The substitute is before us. Before you read the caption, do have a follow-up question.
Just a follow-up question on the previous item and this item we're considering now. Councilmember Dozier asked part of this, but as far as when we go out and do these resurfacing projects and safety improvements, so that it may involve more than just sidewalk repairs and ADA improvements, repairs, but those, at least ideally, are included automatically when we go out and resurface the street, correct? If an ADA ramp needs to be repaired, if a sidewalk has some, is not meeting ADA compliance somewhere, that is included as part of the project?
So, Councilmember, I will speak to ADA improvements, yes, by way of consent decree. However, sidewalk improvements are not included as part of the resurfacing.
Well, I mean, a sidewalk improvement could be,
as it relates
if the sidewalk
to
is
ADA.
broken, it obviously doesn't meet ADA compliance, so it would be.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please. You need to read the caption.
The substitute adds the funding sources and changes the caption. So this is item number 3, 24-01448, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet as substituted by Transportation Committee, an ordinance waiving Part 2, Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 4 of the Atlanta City Code, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute the Second Amendment to a contract number listed herein for the 2021 LMIG Street Resurfacing Project Group 2 South with Magnum Paving Company Incorporated, and to exercise the final renewal option for a term of 1 year, effective November 24th, 2024 through November 23rd, 2025, to add funding in an amount not to exceed $10,108,499.00. All contractor work shall be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion has been made and second. I believe the motion was made by Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Lewis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item takes us to our resolutions. Item number 5.
And I'm sorry, Chairman, I just want to say to council, thank you for all the hard work and working with us on this resurfacing list. It's a pivot and a shift change in terms of how we work together to take care of the city of Atlanta streets. So.
Thank you for saying that, because I do believe also that it is a pivot. And just looking back 3 years ago and where we are now, I do feel like we are headed in the right direction and catching up and really are able to pinpoint areas better than we have in the past. So I think it is a pivot as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, now, item number 5.
Item number 5, 24R3839, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement for a contract number listed herein for the Fairburn Road Complete Streets with Astor Group Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 2 years with one-year renewal option and an amount not to exceed $33,200,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed and for other purposes.
Motion to hold.
Second.
Motion is made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Paper will be held. Next item, item number 6.
Next item, item number 6, Mr. Chair, there is a request to make a motion to amend this item.
Motion to amend. Motion made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Amended item is before us. Please read the amended caption.
No, this amendment just makes minor language edits and corrects some typos. This is item number 6, 24R3929, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos as amended by the Transportation Committee requesting the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install traffic calming devices that are first responder friendly where appropriate and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. We have a question or comment. Councilmember Hillis.
Yeah, just a quick question for you, Commissioner Cavanis. You know, we have the program where we always run out of money, and this council tries to appropriate more money in the budget for speed tables. But you and I have had conversations before with other people in your department. Where is the department with, I guess, deploying more rapidly the pre-made speed tables that you can put out on streets that come in different sections, can be very quickly made appropriate for emergency vehicles and again, could be deployed very rapidly. Have you all looked into that? Where's the department with that? What's the opinion of your department on that?
So, again, Solomon Cavanis, Atlanta Department of Transportation Commissioner. To save us time, I'm going to just say on behalf of our engineering department, they are looking at innovations around speed tables, speed control. They're having conversations with our MPUs and council about what type of treatments might be appropriate. We've been, the speed table department in the past, but we've had ongoing conversations with the community and council about options. So we are very sensitive to first responder access and ability to get on scene in the most expedient way. So we are also in talks with our first responder community, fire and police, about what makes the most sense.
Maybe a further update in your next quarterly?
Sure.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. That takes us to our next item, item number 7.
Item number 7, Mr. Chair, there is a motion to amend this item as well. A request, excuse me. to amend this
Motion
item.
has been made by Councilmember Lewis, second by myself. Discussion, see we have one question. Councilmember Lewis. Oh, nope, okay. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Amended item is before us. Please read the caption.
This amendment attaches the Exhibit A, the indemnification agreement in substantial form to the legislation. This is item number 7, 24R3938, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook as amended by the Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an assumption of indemnification agreement with Atlanta Beltline Incorporated pursuant to an underlining agreement between the City of Atlanta and Norfolk Southern Rail Company and for other purposes.
Councilmember Lewis.
Just
just want to say that the Atlanta Beltline and the Invest Atlanta are tools to truly help our city become more equitable. Yesterday, we worked on legislation because we see how innovative the Atlanta Beltline is and ways to stretch it throughout the south side of the city. So as we stretch and we grow on the northeast side to finish the trail, we're still trying to bring it down to Southside Park. So I want to say thank you to the Atlanta Beltline for still being innovative on the northeast side of the city, but make sure that we pass legislation in this council to make sure they're looking at Southside Park on Jonesboro Road, because the goal is to, even reading this paper, the goal is to connect it to the airport. The goal is to connect the entire Atlanta. So as we continue to grow on the northeast side, make sure that Southside Park is getting the attention that it needs. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The amended item is favorable. Next item, item number 8.
Item number 8, Mr. Chair, there is a request to make a motion to amend this item as well.
Motion to amend. Second. Motion made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Amended item is before us. Please read the caption.
The amendment attaches Exhibit A, the railway agreement in substantial form, to this legislation. This is item number 8, 24R3940, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Swan authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement with Norfolk Southern Rail Company on behalf of the City of Atlanta Department of Transportation to access the railway right-of-way for infrastructure improvement related to the Atlanta Northeast Beltline Trail at Mason Street and on grade under the Norfolk Southern Bridge over Peachtree Creek in the vicinity of railway milepost 631.7 in Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, of the Atlanta Northeast Beltline Trail and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Amended item is favorable. Next item, item number 9.
Item number 9, 24R3942, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study in the Hammond Park neighborhood to determine a need for any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speeds or stop signs, and for other purposes.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to our next item, item number 10. I make a motion to amend. Motion is made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The amended item is before us. Please read the caption.
The amendment makes minor language edits throughout the legislation. 24R3943, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis requesting the mayor or his designee install traffic calming devices on Harte Drive Southwest from Sullivan Road Southwest to Evans Drive Southwest to improve traffic safety and for other purposes.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The amended item is favorable. Takes us to our next item, item number 11.
Item number 11, 24R3974, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 1 for RFP-S1210072A, emergency on-call debris removal services with Ashbridge Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year effective December 28th, 2024 through December 27th, 2025, and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second by Councilmember Hillis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to our next item, item number 12.
Item number 12, 24R3975, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 1 for RFP-S 1210072B, emergency on-call debris removal services with Keras Environmental Services Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year effective December 28, 2024 through December 27, 2025, and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion has been made and second by Councilmember Hillis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to our next item, item number 13. Please sound the caption.
Item number 13, 24R3976, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and implement all grant funds and programs from all state and federal agencies and execute documents associated with such grants for projects at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport during the 2025 federal fiscal year and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to our next item, item number 14.
Item number 14, 24R3977, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an RFP IT DOA 2402-1240257, Public Safety Systems Operation and Maintenance with Dean All PSS LLC at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on behalf of the Department of Aviation in an amount not to exceed $8,148,861.63. All services will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, there is a request to hold this item to give the department enough time to produce the IPA report.
Motion to hold. Second. Motion is made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. That takes us to our dual referred, in which I see there are none, which takes us to our papers held in committee, in which I see there are none coming off, which brings us 10.
Mr. Chair, there is one item coming off papers held in committee, item number 29.
Etchman. Item number 29. Sound the caption.
There is a motion to amend this item. Before we do that, the amendment attaches the IPA report.
Second.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The amended item is before us.
Item number 29, 24R3923, a resolution by Transportation Committee as amended by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement for an account number listed herein, landslide electrical on-call at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with Brooks, Berry, and Haney Electric on behalf of the Department of Aviation for a term of 3 years with 1 2-year renewal option in an amount not to exceed $2,730,000.00. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Mr. Overton, I think that takes us to then. Since we're at the end of the agenda, just want to stop and say thank you to everyone who decides to go on this crazy ride with us every other Wednesday. We all move in different factions, but hopefully we're all moving into a better Atlanta, so thank you. And then last but not least, definitely just want to take a couple of seconds to honor the lives of the 2 Delta employees that was lost this week at Hartsfield-Jackson, and also to keep in prayer the individual that was injured as well, horrific accident. So just want to stop as the Transportation Committee just for a couple of seconds to honor them and respect the one that was injured. Okay, my colleagues, any more closing comments? Saying none? Thank you, everybody. We adjourn.